is Fake Piton. Thank you. My name is Fake Peter, and this is the How to Ace Global Interviews webinar. So this webinar is really targeted at anyone who has an interview coming up, because the tips and tricks that we'll be sharing today cut across multiple domains and fields. However, today we're really focusing on grad school interviews, scholarship interviews, and social impact fellowship interviews. We're going to have two guest speakers who will join us sometime throughout the meeting today. I think we're going to get the best use out of this if we truly, really engage. I'm personally looking forward to learning from you guys some tips and strategies that have worked for you in the past, and also looking forward to teaching you something new. I actually have an interview coming up next week, so I'm looking forward to getting some tips, to kind of help me figure this out. So I want to really know in the chat box, how is everyone doing? How are you guys feeling? How's your week been? What have you been up to? Let me know. What has been the highlight of your week? Kay says my audio is low. Is this true? Can you all hear me? I'm not sure why he says my audio is low. Please let me know if you can hear me clearly. Okay, Emeka, thank you. Audio is great, great. Thank you, everyone. So let me know, how are you all feeling? Thank you. Highlight of my week, getting the Chevening interview invite. Amazing. I hope you guys did not pronounce Chevening. It's actually Chevening. That is great. We can hear you. Thank you. Feeling a bit stressed. I'm sorry. Audio is great. Good. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with our icebreaker. I'd like us to kind of get to know each other a bit more, and I want you guys to share with us. So it's really simple. Unmute yourself or turn on your video. If you can do either one, just unmute yourself or you turn on your video. And I want you to share with us from one of the questions on the screen. What is one thing you are extremely proud of? Why did you join this interview webinar today? Or tell us, are you an early bird or a night owl, and why? So who is brave? Use the raise hand function and I'll call on you. So the thing about me is that I facilitate sessions like a teacher, so I'm going to call names. But thank you to my volunteers. Oluwaseun, you can go ahead.
Hi, please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, good afternoon. I'm so happy and so much excited to be a part of this program. Just to go straight first, one thing I am extremely proud of is the fact that I was able to leverage the previous interview tips that was shared from the community. I was able to use that for most of the program that I put in for, especially for the yearly program which comes up. And I was so much excited because I was able to nail this interview with the panelists, and they were so much impressed, judging from the way I was able to present myself and also how I was able to talk. So, I mean, it was really so amazing for me that I was able to come through this particular strategies, which I didn't even know of. And I was able to learn a lot. And why did I join this interview? So I mean,
it's okay. You can answer just one, just one question. Thank you. Thank you. But congratulations on securing more interviews and even an offer. Amazing. Comfort, please go ahead.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Hello. Thank you for this session. So I'll answer the second question. Why did you join this interview webinar today? Well, for me, I'll say I joined this interview webinar to prepare. So I feel like I'm in that preparation stage. I just graduated like early this year, and so it's more like I'm preparing for the opportunities that are going to be open to me. I've started working on my application, and I know that by God's grace I'm going to go far. So joining this is like to prepare and gather every knowledge I can towards my graduate application period. So yes.
Amazing. I'm right there with you, Comfort. I'm looking forward to learning something new today to prepare for my own interviews. Okay, Ngozi, let's hear from you, and then we'll take one more person. Any question on the screen? Hi, Ngozi. Nice to see your face.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes, not too clearly, but we can manage.
Okay. Hi.
That's better.
So I'll answer, are you an early bird or a night owl? I think actually a bit of both because I function any time of the day actually. So both of them, I'm both of them.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Ngozi, for answering. Emeka, did you want to share something with us?
Hi, I did. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I hope we're all doing good. So I would answer the first question. What is one thing you are extremely proud of? And I'd say that one thing I am proud of at this moment is that I have gotten over my fear of the concept of schooling abroad. I think that our founder, Miss Miriam's warnings and Miss Miriam's instructions that anybody can get these opportunities has finally sunk in.
Mm.
So I am proud that I am taking necessary steps, personal statements, filling application. I've gotten my results from my school, gotten the necessary documents. I've reached out to my professors for references. I'm glad I'm finally taking that step, and I'm proud really of how far, how far I have come and how far it took me to go to this point, to get to this point rather. So, yeah,
Amazing, Emeka. Thank you for sharing that. Are you part of the Getting Bootcamp?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I can't. Which one is that?
Okay, so you're probably not part of it if you're not
I'm
sure.
probably
But
not part of it.
we're looking forward to you joining us this year, and I'm glad that you're finally overcoming that fear. Honestly, opportunities are bound for everyone, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about today. Thank you for sharing. I'm actually going to take the very last person, which is Nimi, because Nimi's hand is up. So Nimi, go ahead and share with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to share my the second question, why I joined this interview webinar today. Actually, I have applied for the first time for the Stevening in 2023 for 2024-2025 session. And I was not expecting that I will be shortlisted within the 70,000 applicants.
Wow,
But
congrats.
finally, last week I have received the interview call, and my interview is on 27th of March. And as I have, reached so far, I don't want to lose this opportunity, and I want to give my best. So that's why I joined this webinar, and I'm looking forward to learn something or get some guidance from you. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And congratulations on, getting to this stage of this scholarship. It's a competitive, prestigious scholarship. So you have done well. And I just want to congratulate all of you guys too who have opportunities, who are looking for here to be able to learn something so you can put this into practice for your opportunities. So I'm going to just do a bit of introduction. My name is Faith Piton, as I've already said, and when I am not a grad student, I lead community engagement at Getting Edu. Getting Education is something that is, the work that we do here is really something that I'm very passionate about. There's a lot of good things that we're doing, and some of it is right there on your screen. So Getting supports hundreds of applicants each year in achieving their graduate school dreams. We've been able to help scholars secure over $5 million in funding and counting. We are most known for the Graduate School Application Bootcamp, which is what I was talking about earlier. And in this bootcamp, we provide end-to-end support to help applicants understand how to really submit applications and essays and that are stellar, that are sure to capture the attention of the admissions committee. And if there's any bootcamper here, I want you to let us know in the chat if truly what I'm saying is true. Do you feel like this is something that's helped you understand how to write essays and submit stellar applications? We also organize a lot of free webinars like this one where we provide support, where we help, just because our mission really is that students will be able to access global educational opportunities, especially students who are from underdeveloped countries. We want to democratize access to education. Just like Emeka was talking about earlier, we want to make sure that everyone has access, because really you have value to give. There's opportunities everywhere. Our scholars have gotten into prestigious schools all around the world. Name the school, I'm sure we have a Get Insider there, whether it's Oxford, Texas A&M, Columbia, Harvard, UCL, all over the world, in Canada, in the UK, in the US. I can go on and on. We've also helped our scholars secure numerous scholarships, from the Erasmus to the Chevening to the Cambridge Trust and so many others. Eze and everyone else who is interested about the bootcamp will definitely be sharing more details about it. You can watch the chat for a link from one of our admins. Now, I just want to say that I come to this work at Getting from two sides. I was also a student of the boot camp, and I was able to secure a fully funded offer to go to school abroad. And now I work with Getting just to help other students like you. So if this is something that you think you're interested in, this is the right place for you. All right, so I have Roslyn here, who is one of our guest speakers, which is great. Hi, Roslyn. Let me know if you can hear me before I call you up to introduce yourself.
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Rosie. Okay, so our agenda for today is really simple. A lot of you guys have already shared with us that you want to learn how to really answer interview questions. For me, with my interview coming up next week, I want to learn how to position myself strategically. When I'm meeting with, a panel of 5 people, what are some things I should say? What are some things I should do? There are some funny questions like, if my electricity goes off, you guys who are in Nigeria know that that's a real thing that can happen. Or if my internet suddenly cuts off because we're in the digital age today, what do I do? And so these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about. I just want to confirm if our other guest speaker is here before we go ahead to get started. Okay, I'm not sure if Farida is here, but Farida, if you're here, let me know, and then we'll go ahead to get started. Okay, so these are our 2 guest speakers today. So I'm going to be the way we're going to do this is I want it to be really engaging. I'm going to anchor the conversation, and for each thing we talk about or each theme that we present to you today, there's a question for you, the audience. So make sure you guys are engaging. I'm going to ask you sometimes to raise your hand. Sometimes I'm going to ask you to comment in the chat box. We want to make this engaging because as much as we're here to learn, we also know that you have experience and you have your own stories that you can share with us. Let me know if you guys understand what I'm saying. And before we go ahead, I think you should invite your friend, whether it's work interview that they have coming up, scholarship interview. I think you can send them a message and ask them to join. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat box. Do you think you're going to be able to engage with us today, enjoy this conversation, teach us something and learn something from us? And my team, if you guys can please put in the chat box the link to today's event so that people can share it with their friends and then we can go ahead. And thank you to the bootcamp attendees telling us what the bootcamp did for them. Yes, the Getting Change My Application game bootcamp was super helpful. Amazing. Nobody's saying anything in the chat box. Are we ready to engage today? Thank you. I'll be able to engage today. Yes. Okay. More people. Let us know. Are you guys ready to learn from us? Teach us something? Yes, yes, yes. Amazing. Thank you, guys. So Rosalind, I'm going to pass this off to you to please introduce yourself. I'm gonna try it.
Okay, is there any prompt for the introduction or just
No,
anything
go
that
ahead.
was?
I mean, tell us your background, your school, what you currently do, what you want us to know about you, your qualifications, and why you think you are a good person to actually even tell us about interviews. So go ahead.
Oh, okay. So good morning, and I'm sorry for joining late. It's
Oh,
still
no worries.
okay.
It's early, yes.
Yeah, it's still early morning. Yeah, so I'm still trying to struggle with the whole, but yeah, I'm here. Yeah, so my name is Rosaline Adewi, and I'm a PhD candidate at Purdue University, United States, and studying French literature. So talking about my journey, I went to Obafemi Awolowo University for my first degree. I finished with the first class. Then I went to University of Ibadan too for my master's. I also had a distinction. Then I studied French. Yes, I've been studying French all along. Then before my master's, just to give you an idea of my journey, so I had my NYC at University of Ilorin, and during my NYC, I got State Honors Award. Then from there, after my master's, I worked with the African Union in Algeria. So yes, for like 18 months. Then after working with African Union, then I came to the US for my PhD program. So I've been here for the past 3-4 years, thereabouts. Yeah. So I'm a PhD student. Then why do I think I'm really well positioned to talk about this topic? Although for me, Farida will actually concentrate more on, acing interviews as regards more of like scholarship, like coming for maybe master's, PhD in the US. So I believe she will do justice to that more. Yeah, and I can also add 1 or 2 things to, because of course, it's also, I'm a PhD student, so I have 1 or 2. Although for me, my kind of concentration, we don't really do interviews. So Farida will actually like do more on that. For me, what I would like to, what I'll be focusing on with the interviews as regards social impact. So I do a lot of things on the development space. I have my initiative around gender advocacy and all that. So, and I've actually been to 17 countries, and those countries, thanks to fully funded opportunities, thanks to fully funded programs, like, global opportunities where everything was paid for. And yeah, so that was what I really, I've actually been a beneficiary of a lot of fully funded opportunities. And to get into some of those fully funded opportunities, I had to do interviews. So more like, so I believe I'm well positioned, or maybe let me use what well positioned. I believe that I have the knowledge, or so to say, the worth of experience to share as regards this as regards this, talking about global opportunity, social impact interviews and all that. Yeah, thank you very much.
Wow, Roslyn, I'm very excited to learn from you because one of the things that grad school has done for me is that it has exposed me to the fact that there are so many opportunities out there. So just like you, I've also been applying to lots of fellowships, lots of programs. So I'm really looking forward to learning your secrets. You guys should please welcome Roslyn in the chat box. Welcome her, welcome her. Feel free to interview yourself, unmute yourself to welcome Roslyn before we go ahead to get started.
Hey,
Welcome,
Roslyn.
Roslyn.
Thank you,
Welcome,
everyone.
Roslyn.
Thank you, my people.
Welcome.
Thank you. So we're going to go
Welcome,
ahead and get
Roslyn.
started. Farida is a master's student in McGill University, which is in Canada. She's also a scholar, a Macaulay McBain scholar, and when she joins us, we will let her continue the conversation to introduce herself. So honestly, we're going to get started. So the first thing that we like to tell people at getting is, before you really embark on any journey, whether it's grad school, whether it's for interview, fellowship, scholarships, whatever it is, the most important thing really is the mindset that you have, because the mindset that you have can make or mar your performance. It's a thing of, am I unqualified, or I'm unqualified to do this, or why me? Why should they choose me out of all the thousands of people? And we want you to know a few things. The first one is that you are an asset. You have value to offer. You have experience, you have expertise, you have accomplishments. I want you guys to tell us in the chat box, do you feel like you're an asset? Tell us, I am an asset, because really you have something to offer. So Roslyn, I'm going to ask you the first question. And I know that a lot of people struggle with imposter syndrome when it comes to applications. And it's even worse when interviews come up, like, okay, now these people are going to put a name or a face to the name or a face to the profile. So for you, how do you build confidence before an interview, especially when you feel inadequate or when you feel unprepared? And do you even ever feel unprepared or inadequate? Let us know.
Okay, yeah. So talking about, do I feel unprepared? So this is something I actually believe that I actually go into most interviews prepared most of the times. But there was a situation that happened to me quite recently, and this is really very, very recent. And I had to even look back, in retrospect, and I had to tell myself the truth that you didn't prepare for the interview. But the reason why that was so, because the interview took a different shape, different from what I was used to. So most of the interviews, they would just say, okay, you know what, just come, they will ask you questions and all that. For this interview, I was told to prepare a slide to talk for like 7 minutes. So at the end of the day, I prepared my slide and I didn't practice. So I felt like, okay, you're done with your slide, just go there and just talk. Eventually, when I went there, I was already speaking for more than 7 minutes and they had to tell me to stop. So eventually, I knew that actually I didn't get it at the end of the day. And for me, I knew that even one of the judges had to tell me that, oh, you wasted time and everything. The person was frank with me. So already I knew that, okay, I might not get that opportunity. So that's one thing I would like to say. If you have to prepare a slide, please practice the slide before you go in for any interview. So I didn't prepare for the interview. But talking about general interviews and all that, yeah, sometimes imposter syndrome does happen. Now, I do know the reason why imposter syndrome does happen, because I'm a Nigerian. It's tough. And I will tell you something, especially when it comes to global opportunities, Nigerians have very, very strong profiles. And sometimes that can actually feel very, very intimidating. I'm already thinking, yes, I have a very strong profile. Quite all right. Fine, good. Yes. But it's like sometimes I'm not even really thinking about maybe the kind of fierce competition with someone from maybe Benin Republic or someone from Togo or someone from Niger and everything. Even when you see the quality of it, this is not to downplay maybe other countries or something like that. But I just realized that most times the competition in Nigeria is usually really very, very tough. It's tougher than most of all these countries when it comes to applications, global opportunities, and all that. And in fact, when you see like profile of Nigerians and some of these global opportunities, like our profiles are usually very, very strong. So already the imposter syndrome is already there, like, okay, competing with these people and all that, like, okay, yes, I'm going in for this competition or for this opportunity. And let me tell you the secret how some of these interviews or let me say how these global opportunities work. For example, maybe you need like 50 people in a program, maybe they need 50 people in a program, and sometimes they just say, okay, we want a balance of all the continents across the world. And there's, their intention is that, okay, we're going to select just 10 Africans. So, okay, we're going to select 10 Africans, quite all right. So they may just say, okay, out of 10 Africans, we want to select just 2 Nigerians. That's something. So if they actually have that thing, okay, we want to select 2 Nigerians, actually, you may actually be the third best, let's say third best African, and you're better than maybe one, not like better in the sense of better, but better maybe for that kind of opportunity, so to say. So maybe you may be the third best African, but they may actually leave you to go and select maybe another 5th best African who is a Togolese because they want representation. So representation happens, they want diverse group of people. So sometimes, so imagine choosing 2 Nigerians. So that means for them, they're choosing the best, the best of the best Nigerians. So 2 best, and Nigerians always apply for all these opportunities. We are always many Nigerians, but maybe if you're Togolese or something like that, sometimes I just tell people jokingly that if I were to be in another country, maybe that I would have blown more than this, like jokingly, because the opportunities are there and the competition is not so fierce. So the imposter syndrome is there. But how do I try to say that, okay, you know what, despite all this, I believe that I still matter, I still count and everything. For me, I just go there with the mindset that, okay, Rose, just go there, your onions, you know what you have to say. Bank on your skills, bank on your profile, bank on all the things you've done. So sometimes just like I look at the past and feel like, yes, Rose, you've got an amazing profile. And one thing about this life is that 2 people can actually, and one thing I've noticed, 2 people can actually be, okay, person A may actually have done a lot, and person B may not have necessarily done a lot. But sometimes the way person B will package his story, we actually make it seem as if he or she has really done a lot, much more than person A who has even done more. So sometimes I also leverage on the fact that, okay, this is your story. Try to even give them the idea that, yes, you belong here. You choose me. I'm the right candidate for you. Like, I will add value to your organization. I'll add value to this program. So it also depends on how. So I go there with that mindset that, okay, yes, I believe that, yes, if you need to choose somebody, choose me, because I will just lay on my cards in terms of, yes, these are my skills, these are my experiences, these are my qualifications. And I try to, you yourself, you are the only person who can actually blow your trumpet. Nobody will blow your trumpet for you. So I try to, yes, I do not be humble when you go for interviews. So more like, yes, I try to hype myself, talk about everything I've done, package it very well. Of course, package in terms of how I present everything succinctly, and I'll try to convince them and persuade them that, yes, I am the right candidate. So
amazing. I think one of the things that I personally like to do for interviews is, as Rosin said, always try to be prepared. And just like Rosin, I have a story of how I wasn't prepared. I'm going to tell you guys later. Very embarrassing. But generally, I think 2 things I tell myself: I'm going to prepare and I'm going to give my best. That is just the best. That's really what you can do, because sometimes people are more qualified than you. It is what it is. Life doesn't wait for you. People are more qualified than you, but you want to remember that I'm going to prepare and I'm going to give my best. I want to hear from you guys in the chat box. In what ways do you prepare your mindset for an interview? Especially when you're feeling afraid, you have imposter syndrome, you're wondering, am I really the most qualified in the room? Let me know in the chat box. If you're an international student, you probably know that sometimes you're like, I'm competing against, citizens. How do you navigate that? Share with me in the chat box, guys. Still waiting for answers. Nobody prepares their mind. I write off who wants to interview me. It aids my confidence. This is an interesting strategy, Pelumi. Anybody else? How do you prepare with your mindset? How do you get in the mood? How do you get ready? Perfect your points well and just flow. Be yourself. Okay. Anybody else want to share? Remember that this has to be engaging. You guys promised to be engaging, oh. To be honest, I don't. I carry the fair there and pray it doesn't overwhelm me. Ngozi, thank you for being real and thank you for being vulnerable with that. So I think that going forward, one of the things that we can do is just remind ourselves that we can prepare, and after preparing, we can do our best. All you can really deliver is your best. So, and you guys, you're an asset. You have value to give. Like we've already said this, you have something to give. That's why they're calling you for an interview. So get ready for that. Thank you for sharing. Practice with your peers. Yes, yes. Do a lot of stimulation. Okay. So now let's talk about something else. You get an interview invite to help a committee do a couple of things. And the first one is really to establish fit, whether it's a school, a program, a fellowship, whatever it is, they want to know if you're the perfect candidate for it. The other thing is to decide, are you really the best candidate? We have 4 people we're interested in. Which of you is going to be the best for us? We want to be able to put a face to the documents you submitted. So sometimes people just want to hear you speak. They want to hear you articulate your thoughts and all of those things. So if you receive an interview invite, what is the first thing you do? So Rosalind, you can go ahead and share with us. What would be the first thing that you do?
Okay, so receiving and okay, someone said something, so that I got carried away about dressing and everything. And I believe me, it helps. Most times, if I want to go for an interview, I like to dress maybe sometimes and use it. Like I would like to wear a blazer, and sometimes I would also like to wear like a very like maybe red lipstick. Sometimes it helps me in a way. I don't know, like okay, yes, let's go for this. Yes, I just wanted to say that. Yeah, so one first thing if I receive an invite for me is usually like, okay, yes, I think I'm valuable. Of course, I believe I'm valuable for this program, and I'm always excited. Excitement is usually the first, should I say, action for me. Like, okay, yes, that's fine, we're good, we're fine, and all that. So the next thing I would like to do is to go and actually like check and see, okay, yes, okay. Now I've gotten this opportunity. Let me go back to my application. That's very important. So now we're actually living in the day of ChatGPT, and organizations are becoming much more, should I say, skeptical, so to say, about written applications. It's actually something now. Although yes, there's a way you can actually spot ChatGPT responses. Sometimes, even sometimes, merely looking at some applications, essay applications, I can spot it myself. Even we have people who actually like they can spot the difference between human generated responses and AI generated responses. So it's actually a thing. So beyond the written applications, some organizations would like to meet you in person, like, okay, talk to us. We want to get to know you. Does everything match? Does everything fit? And things like that. So that's also another opportunity, especially in our world today. So for me, the first thing I would like to say is that I used to, everything, the view changed for me. Okay, yeah. So the first thing I would like to do is to check out the organization. And this has actually helped me a lot. There was one interview I had that was MCW. I got the opportunity that was like 5 years ago or 6 years ago. That was in 2018.
I applied for that and I got to the second stage and they bounced me. I feel very, very sad, but continue.
Yeah. I applied for that in 2018, and that was my first time, and I was able to get in at the end of the day. But that was like three phases. The first was written application, the second was a video, then the third was an interview. So for me, the preparation for that interview for me, what actually helped me basically was actually reading about the organization. So I discovered that, so maybe 2 days to the interview, I just went to their website and I read up on a lot of things about the organization and everything. And by the time I got there, do you know what happened? Most of the questions that they asked me were on their website. Like, okay, we have some branches in that because they're based there in the US. We have some branches in Africa. What are the branches in Africa? Just questions that if I
That's so
had not,
random.
yeah, so random. So questions that if I had not even checked on their website, I wouldn't have actually had an inkling of, like, nowhere I could not have guessed the responses. So I checked the website. So it's very, very important. Another thing you may want to do, I also try to check past winners and check the profile of past winners, because sometimes you can actually have a feel of the kind of people they want, what they seek to reward. Someone is okay, thank you. Yes, so sometimes I check past winners too. That also helps me. I check their profile. So sometimes when I check their profile, I notice a sort of pattern. There's an opportunity I'm still eyeing today, but sometimes I still have this bias, although it may just be me that some of the people selected, there are people who have actually this, grass the great story. So I actually try to see, okay, this organization, okay, yeah, of course, they do work around gender advocacy, but they would actually privilege people who are into sexual health and reproductive rights more than maybe my kind of niche in gender advocacy. So I'll try to see, okay, a sort of pattern. Okay, what do they try to? And sometimes if it's something that I know that, yes, this pattern is actually something that is very, very like, can see that all true, I'll try to play myself into fitting, so to say, that sort of profile. So when I'm telling my story, I'll try to, okay, I know that you guys, I've studied you, I've studied the profile of past winners. So I know that, okay, this is what you want. So me too, I'll try to give it to them that, okay, yes, I'll try to fit my story, my experience to what I believe that they want. Because each organization, they actually have what they seek to reward when they're actually looking at for potential winners. So I'll try to say, okay, they want to reward this. Okay, how can I try to also tell my story to fit into that? Then another thing I want to do in terms of preparing for an interview is, second thing, I reach out to past winners. That for me is very important. Yeah, like, okay, yes, have you gotten this? That's one thing I know I always do. You've gotten this, what's it called? This fully funded opportunity. Please, can you try as much as possible to tell me, okay, yes, what are the questions? So some people, okay, these are the common questions. So that will give me an idea of, okay, what to actually look out for, what to practice in terms of, okay, yes, preparing for the interview. Another thing I also do that is also very important to me, someone says simulation. You can always have a simulation with your friend. Like, okay, yes, I have an interview. Can you please ask me questions? And in fact, there were times that I had to even do the simulation with past winners. Okay, you've gotten into this program. Can we have a one-on-one? And they do that. They oblige me. So those are the those are the things I do in order to prepare for interviews generally. In a
Thank you
nutshell,
for sharing
I
that.
don't know how much time I have, so I don't
No, it's
overtalk.
okay. It's
Yeah,
okay. We're on time. But I
okay.
just want to say that Roslyn really summarized, and I'll just summarize what she said, because I know someone here mentioned the Chevening Scholarship. So you would do well for those kind of scholarships. So actually check the profile of the winners. And someone also asked in the chat, how do we find profiles? So LinkedIn has a hack that we call the Get In LinkedIn hack. And if you go to LinkedIn, it's really simple. Go to LinkedIn and type in that scholarship and use that to see the profiles that will pop up. And through that, start to check their profiles. You can do this even if it's for a job, for a graduate assistantship, for a scholarship, for a program, for a school, whatever. You can use this hack to find people. Now, some of these programs would actually put on their website past winners. For example, there's the interview I have next week. They actually have on their website, these are the people who have done it. And things like that. So I went through all of their profiles. What were they interested? Just like Roslyn said, what are they interested in? How did they bring their unique skill sets? Because sometimes a program will say, oh, we need someone who is in gender advocacy, as Roslyn was saying. However, you can see that past winners were in communication. So how can you tie in your own experiences to this thing that they are looking for? So Roslyn basically said, read the website. I think that's a no-brainer. Revisit your applications. Sometimes you have to write essay, and it might have been months before they call you back. So check your application. Did you say something in your application that you're not sure how to defend? You want to work on that. Check the profile of past winners using LinkedIn or their website, and reach out to past winners when applicable. Let me know in the chat, is there anything else you guys would do? What is the first thing you would do when you receive an interview invite that we have not already mentioned? And thank you to those of you engaging. I appreciate it. Is there anything else you would do aside from what we've talked about? Okay, Rosie says, read your written responses well, for sure. You want to make sure that every line, okay, another thing that we didn't add, was CV. You want to make sure that you also check your CV, because sometimes they can ask you things from your CV. You said you were leader, you led a team of 5. to secure $100 million in funding. They are probably going to ask you about that. How did you do it? How did it work out? So you want to do that. Tomilaya says, read about the interviewer. Thank you. Ejiro says the same thing as well. Okay, so you guys can look at this slide that I have that just gives you a couple of things to look over, just in case you're wondering. We talk about research, which summarizes everything that Rosin just shared with us. You want to research the school, you want to research the interviewer, you want to research scholarship. I even go an extra measure and research other people that are in the department or in the field to see what they're doing, what is interesting. You want to research program. I want you guys to write these things down just in case you're like, I'm not really sure what to do. Okay, Olusegun says the one he just won recently, he did exactly that, reach out to past winners and got exact questions, so he was able to prepare. That's amazing. So is there anything else that we're not covering here in terms of what to do to prepare? All right, I think everyone is on track. Thank you, guys. So now that you have all this information, so I know that, for example, the person who is going to be interviewing me has worked with this organization for 5 years, is the lead of people and development. I know that the school is into research in breast cancer and women's advocacy. I know, for example, that the program has a special, niche that they do. I know all of these things. What next, right? And some of what I have is how to put together a catalog of your receipts and evidence. So Rosin, I know you talked about it a little bit earlier, just feeling like, okay, I know my onions, I have this, I have that. Now let's imagine that I'm a student who has multiple skills and experiences. Rosin, can you help us? How do we streamline it to ensure that the things that we do talk about relate to the program or to the school or to the fellowship as applicable?
Okay, yeah, thank you. For me, this is actually I did a video.
Rosie,
like
your video
maybe
is off, just in case.
Oh, sorry. That was a mistake.
No
Okay,
worries.
yeah. So I did a video, was it like I think January, talking about this question you're asking, and more like common mistakes people make when they want to apply for maybe opportunities or even this kind of even scholarships in school and everything. So sometimes we actually wear many hats. I would say that sometimes we wear many hats, and sometimes wearing many hats, that is good. But sometimes if you are not careful, it can jeopardize our chances sometimes when we apply for an opportunity. So there's this particular opportunity I actually applied for last year. And another thing I do sometimes when I want to apply for some things like that, I always have someone who would actually like go through my essay questions. That I always do. I don't just submit, except maybe rare occasions whereby I just feel like it's 300 words, I think I'm fine, or I just feel so confident, super confident. But there's some most essay applications I have, like, the network of friends that would always say, okay, you know what, can you please, that second eye view and everything. So I have this friend who I trust because my friend is very analytical in terms of his approach, very critical of my, he would tell me, what are you doing? Things like that. So one of the feedback he gave me from one of the essays I did last year was that, Rose, yes, so the program actually seeks to reward people who are actually like students generally, but at some point, of course, students and also people who are who are in the development space. However, there are some questions that they asked, and it felt like I was concentrating more on my work as a gender advocate and not my life as a student. So I was actually, so, and for me, I just felt like maybe everything was kind of, there was this intersection of everything. It was like, no, you have to streamline your response. This question, focus on your student life. Don't focus on your work as a gender advocate. This is not what they're actually looking out for. And that happens. Sometimes I see people, okay, you do something around sustainable development goal 13, maybe climate change. You also do something around sustainable development goal 5, gender equality. And there's an application, and the application is actually focused more on maybe gender equality, but maybe because you've done a lot, there's that tendency, so to say, to want to like bring everything together. So one thing is that sometimes I also try to underline the question. Okay, maybe sometimes in a particular question there may be like, should I say 5 questions. Okay, like there's a way they would just say, okay, what is this, what is that, what is that. So I'll try to streamline like the major things they're actually watching out for in the questions. So I will more like reflect. So I don't just jump into like questions most times. I'll try to say, okay, What are they trying to watch out for? So that will enable me to know, okay, this question, this is the aspect of my life they're actually like, you know, they want to know. Not like they want to know everything about me. This is what they want to know. This is what they want to know. They do not want to know about, okay, every other thing I've done, just this one thing, maybe just like you said, maybe breast cancer or something like that, and not other things I've done. So it's also very good to be critical and know what kind of and not the exact thing they want. That's very important. And also sometimes your essay application, you can also check with someone to see, okay, I'm going for an interview. How do you think I can also do well, do justice to this? And that can definitely help. Please try to streamline your application. It's very important. You can't just talk about everything. Sometimes they're not interested in everything about your life. They are just interested in one part of your life.
Thank you so much, Rosie, for saying that. So I think we should make this a little bit more practical. So can someone in the chat give us an example? An example in the chat. What are you interviewing for? And what's your anybody? Does anybody have an example? Okay, I'm going to use myself as an example, okay? So I am applying for, or I was applying for the MCW fellowship. So I'm actually going to, let's search it together. Are we listening? Oops.
Yes, we are listening.
Yes, over you.
Okay. Can you guys still hear me and see everybody's video is paused? Hello?
Yes, we can hear
we are
you.
with you. We can hear you.
Yes, we are with you.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. So we're going to look at the
Network.
Okay, apologies for the network issue. I think Faye just logged off. So let's just give her a few minutes to rejoin. Hopefully she's able to rejoin.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, my friends, apologies. This happens, virtual world. Can everybody hear me now? I had to switch up my internet.
Yes,
Thank you,
we can
Rosie.
hear you.
As I was saying, for example, I applied for the MCW fellowship last year, actually, and I'm going to give you guys my profile and tell you some of the things that I chose out of my profile as what I thought was relevant to this MCW fellowship, okay? So this is a quick practical class. Please follow along with me. So as I told you guys, let me just go to my profile. So as I told you guys, right, I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I've done work in the psychology coaching and counseling firm. I've also done work in the EdTech space as a program manager where I did some social impact work. I've done work in education consulting with Getting Like This. I've worked in higher ed, and I've done some other random volunteering things. So all of my experiences kind of center around education, but different styles and different parts of education. So looking at my profile, let me show you guys some of the things that I highlighted. But first, let's look at what the Young Leaders Fellowship requires of us. So I can no longer apply for this fellowship because there's an age limit on it, which is why I really wanted to get in last year. So if you guys are within the age limit now, go ahead and apply. So let's look at the program. The program says they want to equip young leaders. This is something to think about. They're looking for people with leadership skills from around the world with project management skills, leadership competencies needed to address their community's most pressing issues. This already tells you that they expect you to be able to tell them what is a pressing issue in your community. Young leaders will identify and articulate a challenge in the areas of health, education, or economic insecurity. So for example, if you're in the area of music or you're in an area that does not relate to this, I mean, you can tie music into education, but let's imagine that you're in an area that is totally different from this. You already know that this is probably not the program for you, and so on and so forth. Then they tell you what we offer. They tell you, you know, all the details, how it works and everything. So the first thing I did was, okay, which area am I interested in? Obviously, my background is in education, so I chose education. Now, I had to think, the next thing I started thinking about is, what are some pressing issues in my community? Now, another thing I thought about was this. There are different kinds of community people, and I hope you are aware of this. This is part of you interpreting the website. There are different kinds of communities. There are physical communities, like if I say, oh, I want to go to Makoko, and there's other communities which involve things like, for example, young women in Africa, young women around the world. So it's not necessarily bound by location, but it's bound by different things, which is a commonality that they all share. So that's the first thing I did. After doing that, I drew what I consider a table. So I decided on a table. I said, how can I identify certain things? How can I identify that I am a leader or I have learned something? How can I show that I am passionate about education? And how can I show that I have receipts towards actually solving some of these pressing needs? So I'm just showing you my LinkedIn profile for lack of, since my CV is not here. So the first thing I did was I started to look at my experience, each of my experiences. I said, okay, I can't really use my experience here, even though, you know, it relates to education, but it's not a strong receipt. So as Rosalie was saying, some of us have done multiple things. So I said, okay, I've done program management work, and this work was towards something in, like, you know, blah, 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 in social impact. How can I use that? That's an example of picking. I did the same thing with Getting. I said, okay, this work was an example of, you know, certain things. How can I pick it? What is Getting's goal? So look at Getting's goal is to access education-related opportunities. That relates to solving a pressing need. Okay, I went to my current role right now as a GA where I work for a program called Hope Chicago. How can I access some of those things? Hope Chicago is seeking to break the economic divide that exists in Black and Brown communities. That is part of a mission. That is solving a need. And then how am I, me in particular, how am I contributing towards solving this need? I don't know if this has been helpful. You guys should let me know. Did this make sense in terms of what we're saying in terms of gathering receipts? Please let me know. You can raise your hand and unmute yourself. Would you like more examples, or does this make sense? You can raise your hand if you'd like to speak. If Olua says it does, it made a lot of sense. It were very insightful. Thank you. Okay. Is there anything else you guys would like to know more about this? How do you generate receipts for an interview, a program, a scholarship, a job, whatever? Okay, so these are just some examples on the screen. For example, you want to say, what kind of projects have you been involved in? So if this is something around global, whatever, Rosalind can actually talk about the fact about her travel experiences, that the fact that she has been to so many countries, there are certain trends she has been able to identify. That is part of what we're talking about. Another thing, so Eberechi, how do we generate receipts is what I'm showing on the screen right now. The other thing is, what skill sets do you have? So this MCW fellowship talked about doing community needs assessment, and that's something I've done in the past. So that's a way to also show your receipts that in the past I have done this, community needs assessment. Have you ever been trusted with leadership? Some of you, it might not be something grand. It might be that you led a team of 5 when you were in undergrad. It might be that right now you lead a team of 2. It might be that you led an initiative or a project in your office. These are all receipts. Your biggest accomplishments. Can someone share with us what is their biggest accomplishment? Let us know in the chat box. What receipts do you have? Remember, this is learning, and I want you guys to start to think about these things, because these are the things you're going to say in your interview. So if you can't think about it, it might be challenging later on. Let us know in the chat box, or you can raise your hand. Talib, go ahead and share with us.
Yeah, hello everyone. Well, for me, my biggest achievement was in the year 2020, when we are in lockdown in Nigeria here. So there was kind of Facebook global business grant or so, targeting schools who are helping children to learn virtually during the lockdown. So I, using my platform to apply for the grant, and won the grant. That was around $1,000 or so. So that was the biggest. But what I just want to say about this is that whenever we are making any applications, like you mentioned earlier, there are some specifics, there are some emphases that they've made. We need to look at it and try to tailor our responses towards that specifics. For instance, during that grant application, they were made us to realize that if you are just having your platform less than a year ago, before the time, you shouldn't apply. And also, they are also specific about education, particularly children. So they also kind of community-based oriented grants, in the sense that even if you give the grant, do you have other beneficiary in the community, like this local economy, people that are having small businesses around the environment? How are they going to benefit from the grant? These are the things that the question that they pose at us, and we are able to do justice to all this. And lastly, anytime you are giving out your responses, you should be real. You should be real. You should try to say what you do exactly, because there's a way they vet your responses. I could recall then I have some other colleagues that were also putting for that application. Of all of us then in my group, it was my platform, my own responses that scaled through, and that was my biggest achievement.
Thank you so much, Talib, for sharing that. Thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, these are just some of the things when it comes to receipts. Now, going off what Talib was just sharing with us, we're going to talk later about how to actually present that, because when you're presenting these accomplishments or these things, you don't just want to say it, okay, and so what? You want to tie back into what the program is about, and you also want to, state some key metrics, and we'll talk about that. Rosie, we have some questions for you in the chat box. One says,
Okay.
How recent should an achievement be for it to be relevant? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so for me, I would like to say that it's very important for you to want to watch out for recent achievements. Maybe in the past 2 to 3 years, I think that will be fine. So for me, okay, let me just share a little bit about myself. This MCW that she mentioned that she applied for, I got it in 2018. And when I got it in 2018, I got some other opportunities, like 2 or 3 other opportunities that same year, to the US, to France, and all that, to some other countries. And what actually helped me in my application was my experience during my National Youth Service year. So during my NYC, I was actually involved in personal community development projects, and all the story, everything, all the questions, essay applications, application questions, all my responses were the projects I actually embarked on during my NYC days. That was just it purely. So eventually I was able to use NYC experience for these applications. However, now, if I would like to apply for an opportunity, I wouldn't use my NYC experience again, because it's more like six years ago now or thereabout. I can't remember, but it's not like 2-3 years ago anymore. So yes, recency of what's it called now, experiences, I think that matters, because they want to know that, okay, it's not like you're just trying to, like, bank on past glory, so to say, or maybe past project. And again, when it comes to award, a lot of things would have involved in terms of even the kind of project you're working on and the kind of solutions you're even, like, profiling the problem. So they want to see that, okay, yes, you're actually talking about, there's something about global trends when it comes to application. So it's very important for you to actually, talk about something that is really very recent. That's what I would say. That's maybe 2 to 3 years. That's the fair enough.
Thank you, Rosie, for that. There was another question. Let me quickly look for it. What if one hasn't held a leadership position? Does leadership positions in a church or fellowship count in such situations? So, for example, you're asked, tell me about a time you led a project or led something and you've never been a leader. How should you respond? Is it possible also that people have never led anything? What do you think, Rosie?
Well, some people may be laid back in life and maybe they're shy and they've not really had that exposure, so to say. But MCW, one of the things MCW taught me was that leadership is not in position, it's by action. So not necessarily the fact that, okay, I was the vice president of, it could be like, yes, I led a team to organize something. So that could actually serve. It's in action. It's by, okay, I did something. I was able to lead maybe group of people, 2 people, 3 people in executing something that actually counts a lot. Then talking about maybe something you did in church, where I wouldn't say categorically yes, and I wouldn't say categorically no, because there are some organizations that they may be quite, how will I say, they may be quite
biased,
secular, so to say, and maybe not biased, maybe they're secular, they don't really want the old religious talk and everything. So there's a way you can still maybe like talk about your experience without making it so explicit that you're talking about your experience in a church, but you can still talk about it, yes. But so you may want to know, okay, this organization, okay, if it's a faith-based organization, you may not necessarily hide that part of you and just talk about that freely. But if you're not so sure, you may want to talk about it and not being explicit about the fact that, okay, it was for a church or something like that. That's what I would advise. Wisdom is profitable to knowledge. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Does age and life accomplishments matter in landing scholarships? I don't think so, Talib, unless the program categorically has an age limit to it. For example, the MCW fellowship has age limit to it. So unless that, okay. So you guys, our other guest speaker is actually here. Farida is here. Farida, are you able to unmute yourself and just introduce yourself to us before we go ahead?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm so late. I think I got the timing wrong.
Don't worry, that's totally my fault. It's okay. Go ahead.
It's fine. So, my name is Farida Zakaria. I'm a master's student and also a McCall McBain scholar at McGill University, where I'm working in the lab of Dr. Mulai on cancer research. And then when I'm not working, I like to read, sleep, watch movies, and cook food. So most of the activities I pursue are along the line of women empowerment, enhancing leadership among youths. And that's why my experiences span from working in the pharmacy in the hospital as a pharmacist and also working alongside numerous NGOs as a women empowerment advocate. So that's
Amazing.
me.
So if you guys are interested in women empowerment, gender advocacy, I mean, between Farida and Rosie, you definitely have a lot going on for you. So Farida, we're just going to pick up from here. What we're doing is talking about different concepts related to interview and then, having a discussion with it. So we're wrapping up this conversation about cataloging a receipts. I hope everyone understands what I have shared with us today. But I guess, Farida, I want to ask you, when you have an interview coming up and you have multiple experiences, I mean, you've talked about the fact that you're a pharmacist, you do some women advocacy work as well, you're working on research, how do you streamline your receipts to fit with the program or with the school or with the goals of the interview? Do you want to share with us?
Yeah, sure. One thing I know I always do when applying for anything is to go through their criteria. So before I started applying for scholarship, about a year before then, I went through everything they said they needed for a candidate. And I try to streamline everything I'm submitting to that application to what they said they want, including the interview. I think one mistake people make is to have one application and one interview answer for all places they're applying for. And I think that's not going to be feasible. All these people have different things they are seeking in a candidate. So if you go in with one specific kind of person, you definitely not fit into what they are trying to look for. So you have to mold yourself into what you think the program is searching for. Every time you go into an application or you go into an interview, you have to be that person they are looking for. That's just what I
Thank
know
you
I
so
did differently.
Thank you, Farida. And Farida, you've just echoed what Rosine and I have shared. I just want to quickly touch on something, which was the question about leadership. You guys, if you're enjoying this conversation, please share with your friend or with two to join us. I think that these are really important tips that we're sharing. Somebody talked about the leadership thing, and I just wanted to add a bit to it. To what Rosie was sharing with us. Now, leadership really is an action, and I like that she said that it's not really about a title. Of course, having a title sometimes is great because it shows that other people believe in you and believe in your skill sets and capacity. But let's imagine you don't have a title. There are other things you can say. So, for example, one of the leadership examples I like to use, even though I was not formally appointed, is that I was leading my group session when I was in undergrad. I led a group of 10 people for study sessions, and we had that study group for 3 years. So it's really informal and it's really small. But instead of just saying, oh yes, well, I used to lead a group session, you talk about the skills you used. I utilized skills like empathy, organization, time management to ensure that we covered all the basics. In addition to this, I would usually suggest that we do ABC, XYZ, and so on. Those are the ways that we can also show leadership, even if we haven't done something grand. Now, the other thing I want to mention, and this is something that my Get Insiders know that I share with them, if there's a program or a scholarship or a school that you really, really, truly want to apply for, and you are like, I don't really have any receipts, I really have not done anything. As Farida said, if you have checked the requirements a year before, you have enough time to actually gather receipts, and we'll talk more about that as we go on. Okay, now that we've talked about, all these other things in terms of researching and what to prepare for, we're now approaching the day of the interview. I know Roslyn already shared earlier that she likes to wear a blazer, look good for our interview. So we're just going to go to the next question, which is, what is your number one tip for the day of the interview? So the interview is literally let's imagine the interview is 2 hours from now. Roslyn and Farida, Roslyn, you can go first, and Farida, share with us what is something you will be doing 2 hours before an interview.
Okay, so it's a bit different for me. Yeah, let me just talk about different experiences. If I were to be in Nigeria and now that I'm here in the US, I think the preparation would be different in a way. So one of the one of the biggest opportunities I've gotten was Dalai Lama Fellowship. That was in 2018 when I came to the US. And this program I had experience. This time it was with the internet. And it was just as if I was just favored, honestly. The first time I actually had to use a network, I can't remember, maybe MTN or something like that. And at the end of the day, it didn't work out. They could not hear me. Everything was just very, very bad. They gave me the chance the second time. The second time, still, the internet actually messed me up again. I had to send them an email to please, okay, give me the last chance. It was like, second time, your internet was not working. I just had to beg them, like, okay, please just give me the last chance. So the third time I knew that if the internet messes me up this time around, these people, they've actually given me enough grace. And even myself, I appreciated the fact that they had already given me enough grace. So the third time I had to do that, I just ensured that I got a lot of network. I got MTN, I got Glo, I got Airtel, I got everything for that interview. And eventually I was just switching among like different internet services at the end of the day for that event, for that particular interview. So what I would say is that if you're in Nigeria, please try to get a lot of possibilities of networks that that okay, you can switch from different distance. That's very important. While here in the US, we use Wi-Fi. Well, there was an interview I had to do, I think that was like last month, and the Wi-Fi in my apartment actually just went off that morning. And for me to connect my, my data, I don't really get heavy data because Wi-Fi is actually everywhere. So that also affected me, and I was like, okay. And I didn't plan to go to school on that day. It was more like, okay, the interview was in the next, maybe let's say 1 hour or something like that. And I was just like, okay, what is this? So sometimes you have to also have in mind that, okay, let me have, plan B. So more like, okay, you have an interview tomorrow. Try to, there's also what they call risk assessment. What's it called now? Yeah, risk assessment, so to say. You have to check, okay, you have to envisage, okay, what are things that can actually likely come up when you want to have an interview. So, okay, I know that sometimes interview and Wi-Fi can actually be a thing. Okay, let me ensure that I wake up like maybe let's say 1 hour before the interview. Let me check everything. If not, maybe I might have to go to school or something like that to have the interview. At least let me have that time frame to prepare, not like maybe 20 minutes to the interview, I'm trying to get everything. And that was the mistake I made when I wanted to have that interview. So sometimes risk assessment, so that's something. But sometimes too, those people too, they can be gracious. Just tell them, okay, email, please, I'm in Nigeria, my network actually went off. Please, can you give me grace? Can I do that again next time? And next time, make sure you are really prepared. It was actually, they were just gracious enough to give me the like chances, like, three times. So that actually worked in my favor then, yeah.
Thank you, Roslyn, for sharing that. Farida, what about you? You have an interview coming up 2 hours from now. What is your number one tip for the day of interview?
For me, I'm someone that likes to plan way ahead of anything I have to do. So 2 hours before the interview, I'm probably just chilling because I do not want to go into that interview stressed. I'll most likely be sleeping or watching a movie just to get myself relaxed. But before then, because I knew when I had my own interviews, I have MTN SIM, I had my Etisalat, I had my Airtel, all of them were loaded with data. And I was just like, I wasn't using just one phone. I had one of them in a modem. I had one in my
making me
phone.
laugh.
Like
you have like 20 phones on your table.
I was very, very prepared. For the light issue, I know that, okay, I couldn't be at home, so I had to go to my brother's place that had solar, because I know solar would definitely not go off throughout. So I knew I had constant light. I knew I had 3 backup SIMs, and all I had to do was just relax, sit there and wait. Because if anything at all happens while you're waiting to have that interview, if your internet doesn't work, if there's no light, you go in so stressed into that interview that you underperform so much, and then you start blaming yourself. So I know people, you might feel, okay, where can I get somebody with solar? People will be so happy to help you. For that day, if you know it's that important to you, you can turn on the gen all through. You can get family members to give you their phone, because I know I do talk to my family members to give me phones for something like this, and they'll be so happy to help you, because if this thing works out for you, you'll definitely be helping your whole family members. So I'm very sure everybody will be so glad to put in something to see you be great. So just plan really well, because internet will definitely fail you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so the only thing I would add is, personally, on the day of the interview, housekeeping for me is I like to take a shower and get dressed. I think that sometimes when we have virtual interviews or things like this, people kind of be like, oh, well, I'll just show up. But I think taking a shower, getting dressed puts you in the right frame of mind and in the mood, like this is business, and that would be great for you. Okay, so I have a question for you, Roslyn and Farida. And it's that we're Nigerians and a lot of other people here are also Africans. And I've heard people say, well, I'm worried that they might not understand my accent, or I have to speak in a certain kind of way. What do you guys think about that? If a scholar is worried that people can't understand their accent, how should they approach it? What are your thoughts? Or have you ever had a situation where you had an interview and it looked like the person didn't understand you?
For me, it has never happened like that, because I feel it's just a Nigerian thing that we feel conscious about our English, but then we speak really good English. So if you try to form the accent, things will not flow well for you. Speak your English the way it is, because I feel we are very, very clear in our pronunciation of words. So there's no way for ambiguity in whatever you say. So just be you. I've never had any issues with anybody telling me to repeat myself in an interview. It has never happened.
Okay.
But
What
then
about
when
the
you try, what?
Okay, go ahead. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Okay, no, because when you try to form accents, you tend to pronounce words the way they are not supposed to be pronounced, and that's when they'll tell you to come again. So just be you.
Roslyn, what about you? What do you think about that?
Yeah, similar to what Farida has already said. I've never had any issue with that about that before. For me, it's just more like I know that we, like she said, really, I'm an international student and I know that we really speak good English. Honestly, we speak very well. So for me, as long as I know that yes, I speak well, I know how to say everything. So for me, it's more like, yeah, just go for it. You don't have to, but I don't bother about my accent anyways. And I know that ISIS, if they don't understand what I have to say, they will ask me, okay, please, can you please repeat yourself? And I will go again. That's the best. That's what I know that can happen. But really, it has never been an issue for me. They always understand what I have to say most times, and you do not have to say you don't have to be scared or start jittering or maybe have anxiety about your accent. Just go there, say what you have to say, make yourself ensure that you're clear enough. Yes, be eloquent enough, and just go for it. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Amazing. Does anybody have any housekeeping questions before we go ahead? So a summary is basically that you want to set the tone. You want to just be ready. You want to be prepared. Make sure your lighting is good. Dress properly. I think that while, of course, people might not expect you to wear a suit and tie, there's just something about looking good. There's something about coming to that interview eyes sharp, ready to, do what you need to do. If you have a funny background, like for example, like mine, I don't really have a plain wall in my room. I just blur my background. Those are just random things that you can think about in this virtual world. You want to do not apologize and be saying, oh, sorry, this, I hope you can understand me. Don't like do funny things like that. Just tell them, my name is Faye. If there's anything I say that you don't understand, or if, for example, people have told you that you talk fast. So I know people have told me I talk fast. So sometimes I will say it. If there's anything I say that you don't understand, please let me know and I'll be happy to revisit. And then you continue. Remember to maintain eye contact. So you want to look straight into your camera like this, the way I'm looking straight at you, just so that it looks like the person you are maintaining eye contact with them. Remember to smile when appropriate. I feel that don't go into it acting like you're at war. Yeah, I get that a lot too, Rosie. Don't worry. We fast talkers. So sometimes you can just let the person know. I've heard that I talk fast. If there's anything I say you don't understand, I'm happy to revisit it. And then you go like that. Okay, any other questions for housekeeping before we go ahead? Advertised PhD interview. That's an interesting one. Okay, let me write that down. We'll revisit it soon. Yeah, so I would like to move on to actually tackling some questions. But before we do, can everybody share in the chat box, even our speakers, share in the chat, what is the weirdest question you have ever been asked? And also, have you ever been asked a question that made you freeze? Weirdest question you have ever been asked in an interview. Let's see who the winner will be for weirdest questions. Or a question that made you freeze. Anybody? I'm still waiting. I think for me, I wouldn't say it made me freeze, but I was not expecting it. And this was last year. I had an interview for an internship. And the question was, what is something that you're learning in your class right now that you can bring to this internship? And I was like, but I was quick on my feet. So I had an idea, but it was very unexpected. I was asked one time, why would you not be chosen for this job? That's an interesting one. I don't think I've ever been asked that. What can we do as a school to help you achieve your goal? I didn't expect that. Okay. What is your backup plan if you don't get this opportunity? These are really tough questions. How do you lead? Okay, can I get some more answers? You guys, we're like 100 and something here. I want to see more. Tell us the most random interview question or weirdest one. Can you pay tuition of this school? Okay. My interviewer came on and said, we have seen your application and we like you and what you want and want you. What questions do you have for us? Are you serious? Ejiro, that's an interesting one. They didn't ask you any question first. Okay. Why should we not hire you? How much do you want to be paid? Yes. How much do you want to be paid can be weird. If you have 24 hours to leave, what are the last 3 things you do? That's so random, Rashid. Any other one before we go into it? All right. Thank you guys for sharing some of that. Indeed, sometimes in interviews, we have random questions that come up or unexpected questions that come up. But if you use these tips and tools that we had shared earlier about creating a category of receipts that could fit in, the truth is that if you have different receipts or evidences, you can use them for multiple questions. I don't know if anybody does that here. For example, a question on leadership can be used on a time you led a project, a time you collaborated. It can be used on a time you took initiative, and so on. So the framework for answering questions is really simple. I'll go over this. And Rosalind, I have a question for you at the bottom. And it's simple. It's you want to conceptualize and you want to contextualize. And what do I mean by this? If you're going to tell someone about NYSC and the person is in America or in Canada, they don't know what NYSC is. And even if they know, you have to assume that they don't know, and you should explain what it is. Don't give people vague things. Oh, once upon a time, I led one fellowship somewhere. That's vague. What does that mean? How should the person react to that? You also want to put numbers to these things. If you led a team, how many members were in the team? How exactly did that team relate to the larger organizational goals? So for example, if you tell us that, oh, I led a team towards ending malaria in Nigeria, what exactly or how exactly was that team operating? You want to help your audience visualize important details of your journey by storytelling. And Rosin will tell us a little bit about that, because I know that in social impact, I'm assuming that storytelling is something that's important. Another thing is using evidence, right? So instead of saying, oh, I'm a great researcher, I so much love to research, you want to say something like, in the last 5 years, I have collaborated with 10 organizations, including the World Health Organization and Nigeria Health Association, to investigate the effects of cholera on children from rural communities. The results of my research have been published in multiple journals and has been used to create a cure. I feel like with this one, we can even go further to actually share some of our results. For example, I learned that children who live in XYZ community are more susceptible to this kind of cholera. Or I realized that students who are not vaccinated between the age of 2 and 5 actually do ABC, XYZ. Obviously, I don't research cholera, so don't take my word for it. But I hope that you understand what I'm explaining. Do you guys understand what I just explained? Let me know in the chat. And Rosie, you can go ahead to share with us, how have you used storytelling in your social impact interviews?
Okay, so talking about social impact interviews, one thing is that they would ask you some questions, and you have to be very careful not to just give generic responses. Try to tie the questions, your responses to your life story, telling your story about the work you do, not just say, okay, yes, this is it generally. They want to get to know you. So you have to also talk about your life experience, the project that you've embarked on, how you've been able to manage the project, how you've been able to manage the people working with you, how you've been able to manage resources. They want to know a lot of things about, those intricacies, those tiny little details. So you have to be ready to, tell stories in a compelling way that will make them, that will convince them that, yes, this is the right candidate for us. And in social impact space, so to say, one of the things I would like to say, there's always like this STAR approach, whereby you talk about the situation, you talk about the task, you talk about the action, and you talk about the result. This is very important because it actually allows you to lay out what you have to say. Okay, this was the situation. Okay, this was the task, this was the action, and everything. Yes, okay, you already brought that out. Yeah, so that actually works a lot in terms of storytelling. It helps you to build up what you have to say, and like, okay, and then of course when you're talking about the situation, the task, and action, result, you're telling us about your story, like, okay, yes, what I've done and things like that. So that's what I would like to say, talking about storytelling. Then another thing in social impact is that I noticed that quite a number of people talk about a lot of things, but they are not really key on the impact they are making. Impact is very key when it comes to social impact. So some people will just say, I empowered 5,000 people. That's all. No, you don't have to just say, oh, I've empowered 5,000 people. You can go like, okay, yes, since the establishment of, maybe you have like a digital hub for young women, you can say, okay, since the establishment of this digital hub for young women, there have been, maybe let's say, there's been, so to say, let's say 10% increase in the employability skills for these young women, as evidenced by maybe like 10 people having access to internships, or 10 people having access to job placements or something like that. That way they know that, okay, before you actually started the digital hub, okay, the employability skills that was actually like low. Now that you actually have the digital hub, now a lot of people have been able to have access to opportunities. So you can see, so they will see, okay, 15% increase, 20% increase. Try to use statistics, use numbers in explaining, in talking about impact. Don't just say, oh, I've empowered 5,000 people, I've empowered 10,000 people. Try to talk about, okay, the increase, you know, that exponential growth in the terms of the work you do, not just talk about everything vaguely and everything. So storytelling is very important. Talk about impact, talk about everything you've done. Do not be humble at all. And I love the fact that maybe NYC experience was used. Please, as much as possible, although this may not really be related to what the question she asked me, but please, this is one last thing I would like to say. If you've actually like undergone the NYC program, please try to leverage your NYC experience in your applications. I see a lot of applications, I hear a lot of things from people. People underplay their NYC experience a lot. And for me, it's actually, I don't like it. I feel like you can actually do a lot of things and, you know, try to hype your NYC experience in terms of volunteer programs that you did, community development project you did during your NYC, but maybe because some people don't just like the whole NYC program, so they just try to downplay it, even your job experience during your NYC. So please try to, you know, take advantage of your NYC experience. It's very important. Yeah.
Thank you, Farida. So I would like to ask, not Farida, Roslyn, does anybody know what the L stands for? So usually what we all know is the STAR approach, but these days people are saying there's something extra, which is the STAR L approach. Who knows what the L stands for? Are you guys sure that that's it? Lessons learned. You guys are so smart. Thank you. It means learning. So people, especially in social impact, just like Rosin was saying, you want to say what you learned from it. And I think a great way to actually talk about this learning is to tie it into the current role or program or scholarship you're applying for. So you can say that what you learned from this is actually how to be able to do ABC, and you believe that this is an important skill even for this role that you're currently applying for. Great job, guys. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead. So we're going to do something. I'm going to skip this question. And we're just going to practice, because at the end of the day, what is really important is that we are actually able to answer these questions after all of these tools and tips and tricks that we have. So the first question that you almost always get in an interview is some form of a variation of tell me about yourself. Okay, tell me something that you did. Tell me, you know, something that happened. Tell me about a little bit more about you. This is something that we always hear. So I would like to highlight a few things. Is there anybody who would like to read the example on the board? Nimi, I'm sorry, we don't share our PowerPoint. However, the recording will be shared to those of you who are on this call afterwards, and you can access it. Can you walk me through your profile again, Rashid? Very good. That's actually one that you can be asked. Okay, who would like to read this on the board? What am I saying on the board? Oh, you guys, I'm in school, I'm in teacher mode right now. On the screen. Anybody?
Yeah, let me try.
Okay, Saparios, go ahead.
Okay, is it the example, right? Hello.
Yes, read the example. Yes, read the example to us.
Ira Cole. I had a bachelor's degree in economics from Babcock University, where I developed a strong foundation in macroeconomics. Following my undergraduate studies, I worked as an analyst at Deloitte, Nigeria, where I gained valuable experience in auditing for multinationals and CBN. My passion for reducing fraud led me to pursue further education, and I'm excited about the opportunity to join Columbia University for my MBA. My goal is to ... and I believe that an MBA aligns perfectly with my objectives because the program has a specialization in fraud and laundry mitigation. Recently, I was honored with an Associate of the Year because I detected over $1 million in money laundering attached to the audit of a multinational organization, which highlighted my dedication and expertise in so and so field. In my free time, I enjoy cooking, drawing, and hiking, which helps clear my mind and strengthen my attention to detail.
Amazing. Thank you. So I would like to hear from you guys. What are some key elements of this introduction? I think that it's important for us to talk about ourselves because I've kind of done a bit of recruitment myself, and I've asked people this question, can you tell me about yourself? And sometimes I'm always like, oh, I just wish that you went into more details. Like, this is so vague, what you're telling me about yourself. So what are some key elements? Remember that we're learning together, guys. So I want to hear people, and I'm a teacher, so I'm going to start calling names right now. Someone should volunteer before I call your name. Okay, so I'm going to call on Folashayo. Folashayo, do you want to share with us, Folashayo Ayola, what do you think are some of the key elements when you want to introduce yourself, using this example on the screen? Yes, Nimi, so you're right. Educational background, your strength, your goal, your accomplishment, very good. Anybody else want to share? Educational and professional background, okay. Anything else? There's something that people have not mentioned. Imabong, you can go ahead.
Okay, from the example, the person was able to start first by telling us a story. The person just didn't jump to what the person has done. We're able to, I'm sure the person submitted like a CV that had the name, but the person still went on to say the name at the beginning to kind of bring like a connection. She started by telling the name, where the person went to school, what undergraduate studies the person got, what happened immediately after undergraduate studies, what the person has done so far, and at the end of the day connected the reason for applying to Columbia with the person's short-term future goals. Exactly. And then also was able to brag about an accomplishment that aligns with the graduate program the person is applying for. So the person is able to tell a story and was able to carry the interviewer along, and you could just see that this person knows what he or she is doing.
Thank you so much, Imabonga. I appreciate that. So this is just a summary of who you are. It's like a quick elevator speech. So when Farida joined, if you guys noticed, this was kind of the format she followed. She told us her name. She told us she's a McCall-McBain scholar. She told us the school, her professor she's researching with, what she's researching in. And she also told us what she likes to do in her free time. So talking about what you like to do in your free time is just a way for you to kind of, calm yourself and tell the interviewer, I have other things I do. So personally, what I like to do in my free time, what I would say is something like, during my free time, I volunteer at the food pantry, at the Salvation Army food pantry, because my mission is to be able to do ABC, XYZ. So sometimes you can also use your free time activities to support your goals or to support your, what the school is about. A trick I have for you guys is, let's imagine that the program says that they're looking for people who are big on volunteering. That's an example. Instead of saying, oh, during my free time, I cook, you can say, during my free time, I enjoy volunteering. I've volunteered so far in the last year at 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a way to just tie everything all together. Great, great, great. So does anybody have a question about this tell me yourself, or anything that you feel like you're not really sure about?
Can I unmute myself? Sorry, I didn't take permission. Can I talk?
Yes, you can talk. Is there anything you have, a question you
Yeah,
have?
I think one of the greatest thing I saw here that actually did a couple of interviews. I think it was just Favor that gave me, and when I joined this one, I now realized that some things I did wrong. But anyway, I still was able to scale through. But I think one of the greatest things I see here is conceptualization of the fact that everything was stated, $1 million. There were clear figures you could actually relate with. And I realized that when you are even introducing yourself, you should try and tie it down to whatever the interview is all about, whatever the organization is all about. So that the thing does not just hang anywhere. This is what this interview was able to do. Like, was not just hanging on the air, tie it back down to what is the subject matter of that interview. So
Thank you so
to me,
much.
that's just one of the.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So yeah, okay, let's move on to the next one, which is, tell us about a time you collaborated on a project. So Farida and Roslyn, do you guys have any comments about this question? Is there a specific tip or trick that you have in answering this question on collaboration? Because sometimes you can feel like, well, I've not really collaborated on anything, or I've not done anything. So how do you answer this question in the most simple way, but still showing impact? Any of you can go first.
Yeah, sure. For me, one thing people often forget is when they try to explain the projects they've collaborated on, you tend to focus more on others, while you forget that you are the one having that interview. They want to know what exactly you did in that project, not just what the team did as a whole. Fine, you mentioned that the team did this and this, but then what was your role in that project? What did you learn during the whole process? And what was the outcome? What percentage of everything did you contribute to? So do not know where you are supposed to be using the I and then the we, and then do not let the we overshadow the I, because it just makes it look as if you were in the background while other people did the whole work.
Thank you, Farida. So, Roslyn, do you agree? Do you feel like when you're talking about collaboration, we should use an I approach or a we approach? And how do we balance it out? Especially because shouldn't collaboration be like we? Or do you think collaboration should still, and I know that I think there's a question about something similar to this in the Chimney Scholarship essays, but you share with us, Roslyn, what you think.
Okay, yeah, so for me, I actually love the way Farida actually puts it. It's actually very important for you to use we though, because it's more like a collaboration. So you're doing that with someone. However, it's also very important for you to also like bring yourself to the fore, because you are the one they are interviewing, not the other people. But you also try to ensure that you also echo the fact that what you were doing actually, like, you're doing it with other people, but you should actually still be at the spotlight, really, but not always I all the time, because you didn't do the whole thing alone. So that's what I would say. Then another thing I would like to say when I want to answer this kind of question on collaboration is that for most of the opportunities I've gotten, I would like to tell you how I got to meet these people. So maybe for example, some of the questions that I know that that keep echoing in some of the social impacts would be like, okay, yes, maybe you've attended a fellowship before and you met some people at the fellowship. So most of the collaborations I've done are actually as a result of people I met at one opportunity or the other. So they want to know that, okay, even if you get this opportunity, how well can you actually even collaborate with your peers, even beyond this program? So like, okay, yes, in the past I attended this program, I met so. As a result of that program, I was able to collaborate on a particular project based on our interaction on this, program. So that would be important. They'll say, yeah, this person has this, that spirit, that same spirit. Okay, you actually met someone. That's one. The second thing is social media. Okay, maybe I didn't meet this person at the program, because nowadays programs too, they're actually very big on social media. It's a social media world. They even ask questions around social media, how you're able to, leverage social media, your social impact work and everything. So sometimes you may even want to highlight, okay, yes, I didn't meet this person at any event, and that has happened to me. Quite a number of people I've actually collaborated with. I met them on social media we've never seen before. And now I have an initiative I kind of celebrated 7 years of social impact. That was last year. And I told people that 98% of my volunteers have never set my eyes on them. I met them all on social media. So that could be something you may want to say, okay, yes, this is the word of social media. I've actually leveraged the digital world in my advocacy, in my social impact journey. Yes, I met this person on social media and I collaborated with that person. They will know that, yes, you're a strong leader. You're this person who is very strong, and you can actually like network with people across different countries and continents. So that is very important too when you talk about this. Yeah. So that's what I would like to say.
I'd like to give a cheat code to anyone, from what Roslyn is saying, to anyone who is applying for the social work program for the Erasmus scholarship, because there's actually a question, well, I don't know if it's now, but during my time, I know there was a question that it was about using digital literacy, digital tools for social work. So this is literally an example of talking about using social media to collaborate on projects towards social impact. So just putting all of this out there. Okay, so I'm going to look at 2 more questions. And Farida and Roslyn, we're going to do something. We're going to have people on the hot seat. I would like about 3 to 4 people to volunteer to be on a hot seat. And Farida, Roslyn, and I, so probably 3 people, will ask you a random question and give you feedback, okay? I hope you guys are going to be brave enough to do that. So this one is about strengths. I know that sometimes when people are asked, what is your strength? It can feel like, I don't think, even for me, sometimes I'm like, do I even have any strengths? But we always have to remember that there's value to give. And I think finding out what are examples of strengths can actually help us prepare ahead of time for things like this. So this one is really simple. what are your strengths? And you want to make sure that these strengths kind of relate to the program. Don't just say random things. So for example, this one says, as a business analyst and strategist with over 6 years of experience in the financial sector, my greatest strength is being able to break down difficult concepts into understandable bits for anyone to understand. I do this by first transforming the information into smaller parts, utilizing tools like Canva, pie charts, stories, etc. to convey my point. At work, I'm often referred to as professor, and it is a title I take great pride in. I look forward to bringing this skill to the department as teaching assistants for foundations of business analytics. I want to know in the chat, does this make sense? What do you guys think about this idea? Is it good? Do you think that when you hear this, it makes sense in terms of how the person has answered it? Let me know. What are some key things that you like about this? Yeah, so you remember that you want to use this, as Nigerians will say, ichoke abi no choke. You want to talk about how this skill, you have used it in the past, how you currently use it, and how you will use it in the future for the work. Great. Okay, I think we should go to our hot seat segment just for the sake of time. I would like 3 people or 5 people to volunteer. Use the raise hand function to be on our hot seat. You have to turn on your video if possible so that you can, practice making eye contact. And we're going to ask you a random question. Nimi and some other people who said they have interviews coming up, I think this would be a great time. Use the raise hand function and I'll call on you. So I'm going to call the first person, which is Ngozi. Ngozi, are you ready? We want to see your video and we want you to unmute yourself. It's going to be random, and I want Rosalind to ask Ngozi a question. So Ngozi, what are you going for an interview for?
Hello everybody. I'm going for the Shivnen interview on the 14th of March.
Okay, that's close. So Rosalind, give her one hot question. Just from what you know about the Tunis scholarship.
Okay, tell us how you've shown resilience in your leadership journey.
Hey.
Wow, thank you very much.
You guys should hype
Thank you
Ngozi.
very much for that
Ngozi,
question. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much for that question. Okay, resilience in my leadership journey. So, over the last 5 years, I have been playing in the human resources space. So I've had to manage people and basically everything they come with for the last 5 years, getting a team together and bringing them to achieve a result. That has been really challenging because you have to deal with people from various backgrounds and various personalities, those things. So trying to get them to align with a goal and make it happen is usually very difficult. But one of my key strategies is communication, right? So ultimately for me is to get people to understand where we're going. So I have a firm belief that it's not about what people can do, it's mostly about what people are willing to do, right? So motivation is a big part of my work. I like to motivate my people to get with the program. So sometimes it's positive reinforcement, sometimes it's negative reinforcement, sometimes it's just a little bit of micromanaging and coaching and mentoring to help them understand. But for me, it's getting people to understand the why to the what, and that usually helps us achieve our goal. I hope I answered the question. Please does not answer the question.
You guys should let us know in the chat box. What are you rating Ngozi for this question? Yeah, Ngozi, I have comments, but let's go to your actual interviewer. Rosalind, what do you have to say about this? What did she do well? What didn't she do well? What can she improve on?
Okay, so for me, I would like to say that I love the fact that you mentioned like, okay, your role first, like, okay, human resources, what you've been able to do, and challenges working with people. Okay, that's something, because of course, showing resilience means there's something wrong somewhere, and you're able to show, okay, yes, this was the challenge and everything. Then going to the things you've been able to do, the why, what, and everything, the communication skills and everything. What I would just say, although I know that it was more like putting you on the spot, so to say, so it may not be easy. And I know interviews are like that. So more like maybe just try to structure your responses in such a way that is more, maybe you're much more like, I don't know the right word to use. Like you say it in a very convincing way, and you're much more relaxed, so to say, and you just give it to us and be like, yeah, that's it. So, but then I felt that was good. Yeah.
Farida, do you have feedback for her?
Yeah, then sorry, before, yeah, somebody said it lacks specifics. That's something I would like to say too. I felt like it was kind of general to you might have actually maybe like pinpointed to something really much more specific, like maybe a particular situation that would have actually driven home maybe your points better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Farida, what do you think?
That's the same point I have, because
Same.
one thing I learned from Miriam is that when you are going for interviews like this, you have to be very, very specific. They've read your CV over and over and over again. You do not want to like be very general about your thing, about everything you're saying. You have a lot of stories to draw from. So just pick one of the stories and use that to answer the question. It gives you more credibility.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Ngozi, as
Thank you.
well, that just like they both said, yes, you told us that you told us your background, you told us about communication, about why to do what. What I was looking for when you said communication was, I was exposed, XYZ happened where I had to lead a project, blah, 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 and I used the art of communication. I realized that, something you can say is, I realized that the biggest challenge that we had was that multiple stakeholders were unaware or unsure of how to, play a part in the project. And so how can I bring us together to make sure that everyone is on the same page? First of all, I organized a meeting, a debrief meeting to do ABC. Afterwards, I sent a simple one-pager that explained what was expected of each of us. At the end of the day, what happened was that people felt more confident in achieving this project. And guess what? This project was able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I work in that organization, but I always hear referrals about how great it was. Ngozi, are we on the same wavelength?
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. Oh, is it my network? Is it your network?
Okay, it's not mine. Damlola, are you there? I'm moving on to the next person.
Yes, I'm here.
Show us your face. We need to see you maintaining eye contact. And you're muted again. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, over to you. Oh, my internet too. Farida, over to you to ask her a question.
Okay. So are you preparing for like a scholarship or a school interview? Which one are you preparing for?
You are muted. She's going for the Chibney scholarship. Damlola,
Okay.
you're muted.
Okay. So okay, if you do get this scholarship, how do you want to translate the education you will receive using this?
How do I want to
translate the education you will receive into improving your reach?
Okay, so I'm a film producer, and over the last 5 years in the creative industry, I've grown from being a writer to a producer. I've taken courses in film schools in Nigeria, gotten scholarships to Ebole Creative Academy. However, I'm pursuing Chibney to do my master's in film and television production because I realized a gap in Nigeria, and that film distribution is one of the leading causes of the finances for filmmakers. Nigeria is second highest largest film producer in the entire world, but our annual revenue generation does not tally with this. And this is why I'm excited to pursue a master in producing for film and television. So if I go for Chibney and I go for my master's in film and television, by the time I get back to Nigeria, I'll be able to give the knowledge I've received from my master's degree. I'll be able to give it back to emerging filmmakers in Nigeria. Already I have a YouTube channel where called the Nigeria Filmmakers, where I give back knowledge to emerging filmmakers in Nigeria. So by the time I come back from my 1-year master's degree, of course, I'll be more knowledgeable, I will have more experiences, I will have more network, I will have a more community of international filmmakers. So it will be easy for me to give back to emerging filmmakers in Nigeria. And one of the plans I also have is that I realized that very recently the British Council is doing a lot of things in the area of filmmaking, empowering young filmmakers in Nigeria. So I know that if I get Chibney scholarship and I go for my degree and come back, it will be very easy for me to partner with British Council because, of course, it's a UK government program. So that way, so this master's degree basically, and this education basically for me is a full package, because by the time I get back to Nigeria, it's really helped me in reaching out to emerging filmmakers that I'm really, really very passionate about reaching out. Okay, yeah, that's good.
Thank you, Damilola. Farida, do you want to give her feedback?
Yeah, I do. Damilola, I think that's good, but I think you should learn to be more cohesive with your words so they are not all over the place. And then you should learn to like relax, because you have a lot of energy, but then you can direct that energy into something else so they don't get too distracted by your like so much energy that you bring. It's good, but then just learn to be relaxed, and that will help you in your pace, because I feel your the energy you bring makes you so fast in your words, and it might make it very difficult for them to follow what you're saying, and they might just get lost in the whole explanation and the whole repetition you keep doing.
Thank you, Damilola.
Okay, thank
Rosie, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think so for me, I speak very fast too. So, and a lot of people have actually given me feedback over the years, and sometimes it's just seems difficult. And one thing is that there might be a lot of people quite a number of people have actually recommended like books or things to do in order to, so that might be something you may want to work on, trying to reduce the speed at which you talk, because sometimes, so it also depends really, because I've also heard about a concept, I can't really remember the concept right now, whereby if the person, your interviewer, is also a fast speaker and you are actually at the same pace at which the interviewer is speaking, that might be fine to some extent, but also try to also ensure that everything is well elucidated as you speak, so that they don't lose you as you talk. But generally speaking not talking very fast is not really, yeah, sometimes it's just more like it shows that maybe you're anxious sometimes, although for me I don't feel that way when I speak, but just maybe just something I'm used to. But just try to work on your speed when you talk. It's something I'm also working on, so it's not, you're not alone on this journey, but just be very conscious of that. Like, yes, and also like Farida said, be cohesive. I feel like you have a lot of things to say, and those things, everything you have to say, you can say them under like maybe let's say like less seconds, so to say, and you still make your strong in a very succinct way. That's what I would have to say. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
So Damilola, I need to also let you know too that another thing I noticed is you were talking about, you dropped receipts, which was good. You told us about, your number of years in the field. You told us about the fact that you have your YouTube channel, you have this, you have that. You also kind of told us your goal. You want to empower other filmmakers, which is great. But what I would like to hear is impact. What are you empowering other filmmakers to do? To do what? Why should we care about film? Is it for entertainment? Is it because you want to empower them to make stories that do something? Like, why should we care that you are a filmmaker? You need to have a goal that's bigger than yourself, Damilola, that in 5 years, in 10 years, Chivney can come back and say, this girl told us that she's going to do ABC, and we're seeing the fruit of it. Because other people who are applying for this scholarship will be saying things like, oh, they want to do cancer research, they want to do ovarian clinical, they want to do this, they want to, build education, they want to do so. You also, because of your specific niche, you want to come up with bigger receipts. Does that help? Something bigger than yourself, not just to empower. Because empower is generic. Just like Rosie mentioned, at the other time, all of us can empower. It's really, why are we empowering, or to what end? Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank
all
you
right,
so
great
much,
job,
everyone.
great job.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
I see Carl. Carl, are you there? Your internet is really bad, so I don't know if this is possible. Are you able to hear us well? Yeah, probably not. Okay, I'm going to mute you. Let me see who else is on this screen. If Israel is not there, Israel, last chance, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, let's see your video. Okay, great. Israel, what are you applying for? What are you interviewing for? Carl, I don't know if that's you, but whose internet is making that sound?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try to remove him, and then we can
Okay, so am I clear now?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, go ahead, Israel. So what are you applying for? Or what interview?
MasterCard scholarship.
The MasterCard scholarship. Okay, what program are you going for?
The scholarship at McGill University.
Yeah, what program?
Okay, electronic and electrical engineering.
Okay, electronic and okay. So Israel, you are interested in electronics and engineering program for this scholarship. Out of all the candidates that we have today, why should we choose you? How do you intend to use this scholarship?
All right, thank you very much for that question. With what I have seen, there are a lot of people that have technical abilities and then fail in the part that deals with humanity the most, which is management. But as for me, right from my undergraduate days, I've made sure to bring myself up to speed with management skills, going from project management to consulting to every other important one there for work. And also, I'm planning to have this master's degree because I've noticed that there is an underrepresented number of Africans in water management. I sincerely know that there are some countries and there are some regions in Africa that do not have clean or say potable water. So I feel that's something I really want to work on. It's really that's why I want to have more knowledge so I can go on to implementing it together with some other people because I know definitely I cannot do it alone. And that is why management is important if I would be leading a group. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, Israel, thank you for being brave to attempt this. I don't know what you wrote in your SOP, but let's imagine, have you already been called for your interview?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay. I don't know what you wrote in your SOP, but you're giving us a vibe of, I just want to help water. I just want to be the first person. No, you want to give us details. Again, like I said, I don't know what you wrote in your SOP. Being underrepresentation is a good reason, but that cannot be your main reason because there has to be something, especially because electrical engineering, someone is asking electrical engineering, water management, is it like you're specializing in engineering for water management? There's a lot that is unclear that you're not really telling us. Underrepresentation is a good reason, but this kind of field, I feel like there's more reason you can give to us. So for example, talk about Nigeria. Now, this is something that I don't know if we mentioned it before. If the MasterCard scholarship is the type that says we're looking for individuals who want to use these skills to further their home country, it means that you have to tell us that there's a problem in your home country, Nigeria, that these skills are going to fix. This is a way to think about it. If the MasterCard, I don't know what the MasterCard scholarship asks you for. If they are saying, oh, we're just looking for people in the world, then you can make it a bit more. But if they're saying people who are going to do something in their home country, you want to tell us what is the problem of water management in Nigeria and how can engineering solve this problem? Then you can now say, this is where you come in to do A, B, C, X, Y, Z. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Okay. That is good. Well done, Israel, and thank you. I know I still see 2 hands up. I'm just going to go through my slides, and if we have some time, we'll come back. So I have some more examples on this. I have some more examples on the screen. Some other questions you can think about is, what is your long-term goal? Looking at this one, for example, this person talks about this is for a research-based course. They want to understand the correlation between preeclampsia, genetics, and stages of pregnancy. This other one talks about, the person says, my goal is to become Secretary General of UNICEF. Now, I think it was Rosalind who was saying something around it. Don't be afraid to dream big. You are the owner of your dreams. Some of us are like, I just want to help water. You want to say something big. You want to say, well, right now, my short-term goal is to be able to do this, but my long-term goal is that in the near future, I want to be able to build a school that that caters to children who are in vulnerable populations. For example, you can give examples. You can say, I want to collaborate with companies like Amazon and Microsoft to equip young leaders around Nigeria with tech skills. This is because technology can do A, B, C, X, Y, Z for us. So if you look at this example on the board, I keep saying on the board, you guys, I'm more in class. Secretary General of UNICEF, he talks about malnutrition in Africa. This is the problem that this person wants to solve. Malnutrition in Africa, ensuring food security. This can even be stronger if the person gives a number. Over 50,000 children in Nigeria are living with malnutrition because nobody is doing A, B, C, X, Y, Z. So I hope this has been helpful to you guys to just understand. I'm trying to go through this quickly because I want to wrap up and then we can come back to it. So I told you guys that one of the questions I got asked in my interview was, what is something you learned in your classroom that you will apply to this program? This is an example. This can also be used as, tell us about a time you taught a concept to people. This is why we say when you have receipts, they can translate to more. Tell us about a time you had to break down a difficult concept. You can use this example. So this person says they were lead program coordinator. You're establishing leadership. They worked with 50 people, metrics, to train 100 Nigerian youth in software development. Then tell us the situation. I noticed that 50% had difficulty understanding, using blah, 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 blah. These were skills I learned in my computer engineering 101 class. Even though I was not a part of the instructional team, I took the initiative. This can also be, tell us the time you took initiative. I took the initiative to organize blah, 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 blah. I created multiple questions. At the end of the program, results. At the end of the program, 45 students graduated, and you can include a learning. I learned here that no skill is ever wasted. I'm able to use my skills in multiple directions. That's an example. And there's some other, examples there for you. Okay, so this is another question I feel causes people to freeze. So Roslyn and Farida, share with us, what are some questions when the interviewer says, do you have any questions for me? What are some questions you like to ask? Roslyn, you can go first.
Okay. You can go first.
No, Farida, you can. It's fine since you started.
Okay. I try to make my questions as specific as possible because days to the interview, I go over the website. I try to know everything about it. When I had my interview with Oxford, I wasn't really, because when the interview started with Oxford, they told me basically everything about the program. And then that made it look as if I didn't have any questions to ask them because they've already told me everything. But then I noticed that Oxford has this initiative where graduate students go to schools around UK to teach students about science. And then I noticed that the last time they posted anything about that initiative was in 2020. So that was what I asked about. I said, I'm somebody that is very passionate about transferring knowledge. So why did I stop that program? Because I feel it's something very good. And she told me it was because of COVID. So you should try as much as possible to look at the website if there's any initiative that they are doing, and then it aligns with something you're really passionate about, and you probably see that they've stopped, or there's any initiative that you feel the program should start, you can just ask them about it.
That's a good one. That's also a question I've asked before. I think for my graduate assistant role, for my current role, one of the questions I asked was, I'm looking at this, do you have any international students who work with you, and what kind of support do you provide for them? And I was asking them this because in my role, I work with a lot of students, I see a lot of American students, and I want to understand, are they used to seeing people who don't look like them, who don't sound like them, and how does the department provide support for us to be able to deliver our duties? So that, like Farida said, sometimes you don't have a question relating to the job because they've told you so much already, but you can always have a different question. Roslyn, what about you? What is a question you like to ask?
Okay, so I would like to just talk about two questions I asked in an interview I had last year, and it's actually student centered or focused. The first question was that I know that so the opportunity recognizes students, so to say, it's like it's a recognition. So I had to ask them that beyond recognition, how do you actually even equip the students after this program, after the recognition. So just to have a feel of, okay, some of the plans they have for winners at the end of the day, and they were able to give me like ideas into what they plan to do. That, okay, last year, okay, we just recognized them, but this year we are planning to do this, maybe create like and maybe like a sort of hub for students in their different countries, different continents, something like that. So that gave me like, you know, an idea of some of the plans they also have for people, for winners at the end of the day. Then the second thing was just more personal for the interviewer, like, okay, you're actually working with a lot of students across the world, you've heard different stories and everything, like, okay, yes, just to get to have an insight, like in your day-to-day job, actually what keeps you going. That was just what I had, like, what keeps you going. So the person was like, okay, yeah, talks about the person was able to talk to me about her experience working with students, how she has been inspired by different people's stories and everything, their journeys and everything. So those, yeah, I would say that those two questions for me, yeah, they're valid, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. So recently, I actually attended an interview workshop, actually like this time last week, and somebody said something that was like, oh, wow, I've never thought about asking that. And is this last point. From our discussion today, are there any gaps between the job role and my qualifications or experiences? So yeah, basically, this is also another question you can ask the interviewer. Is there something I've said today that you require more clarification for? Or is there anything that, you know, you think that, or any information you'd like to know that can help me land this role? Okay, so when it comes to scholarship interviews, exactly, what is a type of question we can actually ask related to the scholarship? So Farida, I know you talked about program, and Rosie kind of talked about, you know, fellowship program as well. And me too, I'm talking about like programs, but specific to scholarship interviews. Farida, do you have any idea of a question that would be good to ask related to scholarships?
Okay, for mine, because we're like the first international student to come into the scholarship, and one question I was really wanting to know was how well equipped are you to handle international students, because there's that getting people from different background and then you want them to be in the same space. So how will you handle these differences in perspective so it does not interfere with the goals or the kind of vision you have for the program? That's just something I asked. Yeah.
Okay, so goals, vision for the program, international students, good. So another question that you can also ask is something like, another question you can also ask is, after this scholarship program expires, or, you know, the contract is over, is there any, does this scholarship continue to, you know, maintain contact? Is there any program? Is there any alumni program? All of those things. You want to know what the scholarship does for people after the program. Alrighty, any questions about this? Okay, so the next thing is really post-interview etiquette. I know that you guys have some questions, but I'm trying to just go through the slides and then go back. So Farida and Rosalind, do you think it's important to send an email after? Yes or no?
It is. It's very important to send a thank you email afterwards.
Okay. Okay, cool. So this is a way to send a thank you email. You don't have to be like saying too much. Just, you know, make it simple to let them know that you enjoyed the conversation. Say 2 or 3 sentences reminding them why you're a good fit, restate your interest, and so on. Is there anything else you would add in a post-interview email? Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead to quickly share a couple of things. So I'm going to come back to questions, but I just want to share with you guys a couple of the things that we do at Getting Edu. And I'm also going to give you a chance to connect with the speakers. I know we have questions. Farida and Rosalind, I know that we're at the 2-hour mark. So if either of you need to drop off, I understand. I can continue with the questions, okay? Just let me take 5 minutes to round up and then we can close out. So at Getting, we truly, really believe that education changes lives. And we already talked about this at the beginning of this program, but we believe that everyone can have access to global opportunities, whether it's through traditional education, like a master's degree, or it's through other things like fellowship programs. And because we believe that education changes life, we want to ensure that all of you guys have the opportunity to jump on this train if you like. There's so many things I feel like we didn't talk about today. Like, I would have liked to hear more of Rosalind's journey to grad school, Farida's journey, but that's stuff we can talk about another time. But I just want to share with you guys some of our scholars that we've had in the last 2 years. This is Abiodun, who secured 3 fully funded scholarships using the tips that we teach at Getting the Dad Scholarship, Erasmus, Commonwealth, and so on. Kome, who secured a £15,000 scholarship, and we know that in the UK, scholarships are scarce, but she was able to get this in UCL. Ashwarya, who also secured a fully funded PhD offer, and so many other people. Some of these people have actually graduated. 2 people in this picture have graduated and are now working, abroad and so on. So they are pursuing other opportunities, and our graduate school bootcamp is carefully curated to cover all you need to know about applying to grad school. So we're going to have more webinars about this. We're actually going to have a free webinar, a rejection clinic webinar coming up in less than 2 months in April. We're also going to have a webinar, a free webinar on how to secure fully funded scholarships. So you guys should join us. If you'd like to connect with us, we're on IG, which is our most popping social media. We're most active on IG at Getting Edu. Please follow us, connect with us. If you have any questions, DM. We might not respond this weekend, but we'll be able to get to it on Monday when, during working hours. I would also like for you guys to connect on LinkedIn with the speakers. You can connect with me. I'm quite active these days, and I know Roslyn is as well. Farida, once in a while. So please put your please put your LinkedIn too in the chat, your handle, so that people can connect with you and so on. All right. Okay, so that being said, Roslyn and Farida, how many more minutes can you stay so I can do some more Q&A?
I think I can stay till 10:30.
Okay, great. What about you, Roslyn?
Same here. It's fine.
Okay, so we have
10:30.
about 20 minutes-ish. Okay, thanks guys for doing that. So actually, I don't want us to raise hands because it's going to be harder. Let me just look through the chat box. Jetro, thank you for putting the link. So please put the link to our Getting Instagram page, as well as our bootcamp waitlist for anyone who is interested. But really, if you want to access these free webinars we have, follow us on Instagram. Jetro, if you could also put the link to our recording from last year's interview session, because that was also really good. I've gone back to it for an interview. Okay, so I'm going to read through the chat for any questions we have. If you have a question, just put it in the chat. And okay, Rosie says, after a week, they might have made a decision. So I would admit that that's something I've not been doing, but I started doing it now, sending an email. Sometimes I just feel like, I don't want the person to feel like my own is too much, but I think I should start doing that now. Okay, can we send thank you emails for scholarships like Chevening as well? I feel like the answer to that question is, if you have the email of the person who interviewed you, you can definitely do that. Let me see, I've just sent a request. How do we get a recording? This recording will be sent to the emails of all those who registered when it is ready. Yes, follow Roslyn. Roslyn is always, if you're looking for global opportunities as well, Roslyn posts about them. Even me, I'm always eyeing the opportunities she posts, because that's part of it. Can I send my post-interview email after a week? So Roslyn is saying, send it as soon as possible, because it's possible that after a week, they've already made a decision, which might be too late. Okay, good question. How do we request for funding when it hasn't been spoken about? Very good. Thank you, Omotayo, for bringing that up. And I think Ejiro asked that too. Roslyn and Farida, what are your thoughts? How do you request for funding in an interview, especially for grad school?
Sometimes people are shy to talk about it in person, talking about money, because I think it's a Nigerian factor. So try to do that. You can always just send an email afterwards, and you just like, okay, I notice this is the funding they have, but then if there's a way they can augment your funding, to be very, very specific about why you need that funding and what are the things that are not covered by the funding they are giving you. Because let's say they are giving you $20,000, and then you check the cost of living in that location, and it is going to be $24,000, and then you know that you're expected to be in the lab all day, meaning you don't even have any time to work. You can easily ask for it about them increasing your funding, so you can be able to contribute more to your research. So just never be shy about asking for money. Never.
Exactly. And the truth is that sometimes there are some times when you know that if they don't give you money, you can't even afford to go there. So you might as well ask.
Okay.
I would say, okay, let me ask Rosie first. Rosie, what are your own thoughts about asking
I'm
for money
sorry.
during an
Okay,
interview?
yes. So talking about my own experience, first and foremost, for me, it's not well stated that an opportunity will be fully funded. I don't even bother applying for it. That's just my own. Most times, let me say
Retweets.
let me just say 90% of the time, once I know that my money is going into an opportunity, it's almost like a no. I don't even bother applying, except if I know that the opportunity is actually an opportunity that I know that would be really helpful for me. And I may still, I can still say, okay, and that has happened just once. Like I had to go for an opportunity that I had to pay for myself, but I did that because I knew that, okay, yes, this would actually, that exposure and everything. But really, if it's not fully funded, I don't even bother applying. But of course, sometimes too, you may want to go for your dream. And sometimes too, I tell myself, Rose, you're always too focused on fully funded opportunities. Sometimes you have to invest in yourself. You have to invest money if you need to get some things too. So that is actually a phase I am right now. Like, oh yeah, okay, yes. Sometimes to also try to also go for some opportunities that you may have to pay for, and actually they had value to you. So it's fine, it's okay. So one thing is, sometimes I remember when I was actually applying for PhD, that was some years ago. What I did first was that, of course, I went to their website, checked everything, but sometimes to some pieces of information on the website may not be too clear. So what I did was I contacted the graduate secretary of all the universities I applied to in the US. I applied to 10 universities when I was applying for graduate school. And yes, I applied to 10 universities, 7 in the US and 3 in Canada. And when I did that, I actually sent an email to all the graduate secretaries and asked them, introduce myself, my name, sent them code emails and all that. One question I asked them, like, okay, what is the funding for me as an international student? And some of them told me that, you know what, we don't have funding, all those schools that told me we don't have, I just didn't bother applying to those schools. So immediately, then later, I actually some said, okay, yes, there will be, funding, blah, 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 and I applied to those schools. Then immediately, that was around COVID period, I got admitted into one of those schools, and I noticed that, okay, they sent me admission letter, and I didn't really see anything as regards funding, so to say. I sent them an email. Oh, yes, you've given me admission, but okay, the funding, dynamics, everything, this is not so clear. Please. Then they told me, because of COVID, we'll not be able to fund and everything. So I just forgot about it. So you don't be shy to ask questions. Shoot them an email. They won't, they won't be on your neck like, why are you stopping us or something like that. Ask questions, be clear, because at the end of the day, you enter and so just ask questions, shoot them an email. And even after the interview, you can even ask politely, please, I would like to know what the funding looks like for this program. It's a polite question to ask. Don't be too shy to ask. Shoot your shots.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes, in the past, I used to be like that, that I don't want to leave a bad impression. Like, let it not be like I'm after money. But since I've been living in the US, as I'm sure Farida Rosin can testify, this international student life is tough. So if you need to ask about your money, ask. I just want to know what this is or what is that. Sometimes I would ask, I want to know what extra opportunities you have for me in this, role. There was this internship role I was applying for that they talked about housing. I wanted to know, can you tell me more what the housing situation will be like? Because I know that I can't afford the housing. It's in a different state if I have to move for this internship. So sometimes I think there's a place for it. Obviously, don't ask just in the middle of your interview. Don't start an interview. I just want to know, is there money? Finish the interview, build rapport, sell your skills. Then at the end, when you're done asking important questions, you can then go ahead to know, I'd like to know what kind of support is available for international students for this position, and then they can tell you more. So those that asked about funding, please, was this helpful? Ejiro says, thank you. All right. Do you think it's bright to ask in the interview? Omotai, I'm guessing you mean about the funding. Yeah, we're saying that just watch the tone. What you can do is that you can ask there, but if you're too shy, you can send an email. But me, I feel like it's better to hear, because I've had a meeting before that it was for a school in Canada. The person told me outright, we don't have funding available for this program at all. If you want to come here, have your money. And she was like, if you don't have the money, I don't suggest you apply, because we've seen a trend of, students coming, not being able to support themselves. And that was honest for me. And I said bye-bye to that opportunity. So can you ask if you're the only one being interviewed for a position? I don't know. Let me see what the panelists have to say. Can you ask this? Am I the only one being interviewed? I'll tell you my opinion about it. Rosie, what do you think? Can I ask if I'm the only one being interviewed for a position?
Well, talking about the job market, I'm not sure, because I've not really been exposed to, life of, job market, so to say. But for fellowship and other opportunities, most likely I wouldn't even assume I'll be the only one. So it's not
Exactly.
something
Most
I know
likely.
that we are many. Yeah, I know that we are many. I'm not the only one because it's like they are doing shortlisting. So already I have an idea that we're actually going to be many. So so it's not something I'm going to ask. But maybe for a job purpose, job market, maybe that might not be too bad. As for okay, you want to know, okay, for this role, am I the only one? But for fellowship opportunities, definitely you're not the only one. So you don't have to even think about it. You're not the only one. There are many. Yeah.
Even for jobs, scholarships, you are not the only one applying. So I don't think it's something you should ask. Just bring your A game to the interview and hope for the best.
Okay, my internet tripped off as usual. So it's not only in Nigeria that internet trips off. The internet in this my house, very embarrassing. Anyway, and my data is just terrible this morning. Anywho, so about the PhD question, can you ask? I will say that there's a way that you can ask. So you can, instead of saying, oh, am I the only one? You can just say you can actually ask that, to be honest. The person can beat you. You can just be like, are there other candidates that you that have better qualified for this role? At the end of the day, the person will tell you yes or no, or the person will say, I can't share that. Or you can say something like, I just want to know that based on everything we've talked about today, do you feel like I qualify? Am I top of your list for this role? You can ask that, and the person can tell you. Some people might be diplomatic and be like, well, we're still interviewing. Some other people will tell you, we're very impressed with you, but we have other people to interview. That has happened to me before. They've told me, we enjoyed this conversation. However, you're the first person. So if I'm the first person and they're like, oh, we're still interviewing other people till January. So this interview was in November and they're like, we're still we have other interviews scheduled till January. I'm the first person. Anything can happen between me and the other people. So you can ask, but it doesn't mean that the respond you get might be what you want. All right. Any other questions? Sapayos, you are Ina Kakos. Yes, you will get the recording. Don't worry about that. Any other questions before we wrap this up? Is there anything that we haven't like covered today that you wanted to know about interviews? Please share with me. And did you guys enjoy this interview? This webinar rather, was it helpful? Please let me know. If you want to unmute yourself to speak, that would be great. To those of you raising your hand, was this helpful? Do you think that we covered the tips you needed?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, please can you hear me clearly?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so before I go to that aspect, I have a question tailored towards Pharmacist Farida. So the question I have for her is first and foremost, I'm a pharmacist like her, so I'm even happy like I'm even seeing a colleague of mine here. So it's like a booster for me. So the question I have for you, Mama, is that I don't know for the scholarship you got, I don't know, was it through cold email that you used to get it? And if yes, or if no, is it advisable in your code email to include that the potential supervisor should schedule you for an interview if possible? Is it advisable to include it in your code email? So that's the question I have for you. So, and let me just say, this is the first time I'm joining this space, and in fact, this has been out of all the scholarship space I've been joining over time, this has been the most outstanding one, and it has really helped me. Like, I've really learned a lot today, and I'm very sure that I'm going to get the best out of it. And thank you so much for bringing this together.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead, Farida.
So my scholarship is not through my supervisor. It's actually like the Chevening and Rhodes Scholarship. It's called McCall McBain Scholarship. So you can check that out. It's in Canada. It's a fully funded scholarship. Everything will be covered for you. Your flights, you'll be given, your tuition will be paid.
God win.
It's like everything is. So you just come with your bags, your flight ticket is paid, and everything is covered. And then you asked about if you can include scheduling an interview in your code email. Yes, I've seen people here say you can do that. You can actually ask the person when they'll be free to talk to you more about their lab. And it's either you get a yes or a no answer. So it's totally up to you. For mine, I didn't ask my supervisor if he wanted to schedule an interview, but he did schedule that interview with me. But you can do that. It's not frowned upon.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma.
Yeah. So for mine too, when I was doing cold emailing, I actually said it. In fact, I sent my Calendly link. That was a bit too forward, but because nobody ever signed up for it. But I did that because I was like, just in case the supervisor wanted to meet with me, you can. In fact, actually, I take that back. I did have like one person scheduled through my Calendly. So I take that back. It worked. So if you don't know what Calendly is, you can use that. It just shows when you're available and when you can meet, and sets up a meeting for you. So that was something I did. You can do that for sure. Nobody's letting me know if this was useful. Only 2 people. Wow. This world. Let me know in the chat box.
It
Did
was
you
very
enjoy the
insightful. Thank you very much. It was so insightful.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you. Let us know in the chat box. Did we answer your questions? Do you feel like this was useful for the interview you have coming up and so on?
Well, I think I have a question. Would I say, like, what would you advise? Okay, let me say, when I use the code emailing system, the supervisor actually said, oh, he was interested and all, but it was not in charge of the admission, like it's the admission committee. And when I reached out to the admission committee, they were like, oh, they were going to get back to me. But I've not heard from the admission committee. I'm not thinking that, is it best to reach out to the supervisor again, or what do you think can help?
So at the end of the day, just like anything else, every school has its own process. Some schools will tell you that if you get a supervisor support, then they're considering you for admission. Some schools, that's not what they do. It's the admission committee that makes the time, and then they pair you with a supervisor. So I think that even if a supervisor says, oh yes, your profile is good, that does not mean that you're going to get into their program. Look through the website or contact the program coordinator that you want to know when are they expected to get back to you. Usually they will put it on the website. Decisions usually around March 15th, especially in the US. That's when they make most decisions. So you can check that. And if they say maybe February or they say January, then you can reach out and say, it's January, I've not heard back, I just want to know what's going on, and so on. And if you want to remind the professor about you and who you are, you can do that, especially if you've had an update to your profile. Let's say since when you applied, you just completed a research program that you think the professor will find interesting. You can do that. At the end of the day, there's no harm in these things, as long as you're not shooting yourself in the leg and you're not doing anything wrong. The worst that will happen is that they will snub your email. And the worst that can happen is that they won't even see your email. So all of these things, it really just depends. All right, people. Yeah, I think I covered everything, but I think I will just show this slide again, just so that you guys can look at it and ask any questions about answering these things. Remember that you want to use the STAR method. I know that everybody already knows about this method. So, we're talking about the situation, the task, we're talking about the action that we took. Remember that you want to focus on you as a person, talk about your own strengths, your own skills, be confident, maintain eye contact. I mean, look at even between Roslyn, Farida, and myself, how we have conducted this. It's a conversation. And also remember that as they are interviewing you, you are also interviewing them, because sometimes they will give you something. Have you not heard of people who say, oh, I had 3 options, but I chose this one because I absolutely love the supervisor. So you two, you're also interviewing them. Don't be afraid to, just showcase yourself. The worst that can happen is that they will say, no, nobody's going to die. You'll start again. It will be fine. And I'm telling this to myself, you guys, because I have an interview that's a really big one for me next week. Fingers crossed that this is it for me. But I hope that this has really been useful. Again, you can connect with all of us via LinkedIn. You can connect with us getting on Instagram. And this video, the recording should be ready soon and sent out. And you can also watch the recordings from last year. For that one, we had the CEO, Miriam, take charge. And that was also really packed. Miriam has a lot of good ideas. And just like Rosalie, she's also a veteran in all of these applications. So she can definitely give you good insights. It's on our YouTube channel. can please share the link so that people can also access it, and link to our pages again as well. Thank you, Sayazi, for your comment. Thank you so much, people. I enjoyed spending this beautiful Saturday morning with you. Thank you for just listening and engaging to all of the things that we talked about today. By way of recap, some of the good things I think that came out is just to remember that you are valuable, you are an asset, and you have something to offer. We also talked about the fact that we would remind ourselves to prepare, but we would also give our best at all times. Remember that when you have an interview, you want your background to be clear. You don't need to show the panty in your house, as Yoruba people will say, blur your background or use a virtual, what do they call those things? Those screens, I can't remember what it's called, but that kind of background, fake background. Make sure that you're dressed properly. You also don't want your camera to be like this. You want it to be like, you know, portrait level, so they can see your chest upward. Just dress for success, because you're going to be successful. Make sure to read the website of whatever program or scholarships that you're applying to. Revisit your application. What did you write in your essays and all of those things? You want to make sure that you check the profile of past winners or people who are in the field, people who are in the industry. The other thing I wanted to say too is about research. If you're going for a research-based program, and let's say you're doing it in the US, and you say, oh, the research I want to do is in how does cough start? But they've already answered that question 20 years ago. It's no longer relevant. So that's why you have to read up so that you can be, you know, relevant. We also talked about making sure that we're being critical and analytical in the things that we're saying. We don't just want to say anything like, oh yeah, I love research. You want to give receipts, you want to give evidence, you want to conceptualize and contextualize. Rosin also said something I really liked, which is that leadership is an action. It's not about, oh, I was elected this and this. And of course, that is good receipts. But sometimes it's about simple things. I work together to do A, B, C, X, Y, Z. We also talked about leveraging social media. We want to be able to talk about leveraging social media and how we have used that to be useful. Yeah, I think that those are some of the things that we covered today. Remember to use the STAR-L approach. Tell us what you did and tell us what you learned from it, and connect everything back to the program. All right, we're really done for now. Thank you again, Roslyn and Farida. I absolutely enjoyed having both of you here. I know that it was super early for you. Again, I apologize for the error with the timing, but we made it work. We did it. I'll be sending both of you guys emails to send you a little gift for being with us today. Thank you so much, so much, so much for everything. Oluchi says, is it possible to get a PhD offer without an interview? Yes, Roslyn got hers without an interview, right, Roslyn?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it depends on what the school is asking for. Is it okay to ask the graduate coordinator how soon you get a response from them? Yeah, you can just say, I'd like to know when I can expect to hear back from you. So Dauda Bola says, you want my contact, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I can't share my number, but I mean, we can connect on LinkedIn depending on how things go, or email, and I'll be more than happy to answer you. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you again to our guest speakers. Follow us, ask us more questions if you need to. Take care, everyone. Have a good rest of your Saturday, and thank you guys so much again. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Take
Bye,
care.
everyone. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye. Bye. Thank you so much for joining us. I enjoyed having you guys. Thank you for engaging. Connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where I do all my shenanigans. And if you want to know more about living in grad school, connect with me on LinkedIn. Okay, thank you, everyone. This is my LinkedIn, which I'm opening now. I think I should just put the link in the chat, actually, if anybody wants to follow me. I'm trying to get the link again. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm going to put my LinkedIn, my link to my LinkedIn. Okay, let's copy from here in the chat box. Alrighty. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.